Dark London V5 game. In game, it's Friday the 13th, dun dun dun, of March 2015. Now, when we last left our heroes, in inverted commas, they'd been continuing their efforts to get together the Kindred of the city to impose some sort of structure that would protect them all from the Inquisition, basically, from Operation Antigen, as it's also known. A sort of way of resolving disputes. At the end of our last session, they met up with Harold Underwood, a Toreador, who seems to be of the old school, high clans are best sort of methodology. He treated with them on a fairly friendly basis. However, it was quite clear that he was of the impression that if a new order was going to be established, the high clans, obviously embodied by himself, should be in charge. And the way he phrased it to Seth and to Adrian is that since effectively this new society is immediately going to be on a war footing because of the Inquisition, the way he phrased it was that a single leader needed to be set who could make the decisions quickly and efficiently, because in his eyes, what had led to the Camarillah's downfall is the fact that the Primogen Council, the various other people, were too busy sort of wondering what was going on and squabbling amongst themselves, and that allowed the Inquisition to wipe most of them out. So he was saying that in these uncertain times, they need to have a single figure, someone who might be given emergency powers, shall we say, until the current crisis has passed. And it was pretty clear that he was like putting himself forward for that position. So Seth and Adrian had been organising a meeting to get all the Kindred together to discuss all of this. However, when we start the game, it is Friday, so the evening after the previous session, where Seth and Adrian have arranged for a meeting with the financiers of the recently renamed Enigma Club. Having spoke to the owner, a sort of aged, boastful, drugged-up rock star by the name of Alfred Baxter, who goes under the stage name Hathor, and his money man, Stephen Fields, they managed to arrange that they wanted to put a business proposition towards the sort of board of directors, if you will. And that meeting was arranged for the Friday, which is today in session. So we're going to start off with you guys waking up for the evening. You've both been using the East Brookend Cemetery, which is a secondary haven for Zephyr, one of the kindred that you've known, and appears to have a fairly sort of workable relationship with Seth. And she's, in return for a favour, due to his apartment being unavailable, she agreed to loan you the use of her secondary haven, and that's where you've been staying. Obviously, you've only been there a night, but nothing untoward has happened. You were met by the Night Watch people who've been told that you were taking over. They gave you the keys. Happy days, you went inside. It's not exactly the Ritz, but there's rooms there, you can make yourself comfortable. There's secondary rooms inside that are lockable, so you could easily sort of squirrel yourselves away and you're free from any daytime interference, so that's not really an issue. Okay, so I'm going to ask each of you, as you're waking up in the evening, can you please make me a rouse check for the evening to see whether your hunger has blossomed during your daytime sleep. Okay, so it would appear that Seth's hunger has increased a little bit. You're starting to feel that sort of red edge of hunger tinging your awareness, although it's not overwhelming you yet. Adrian, you're pretty good, to be honest. So the two of you wake up in this small, I suppose, chapel of repose that you've been using as a haven. You know that sort of early this evening is when the meeting with the financiers at the Enigma Club has been planned. It's about 5 miles away from your current location. over to the two of you. Obviously, you've got a bit of time to discuss things, chat, do what you want before you have to go to this meeting. But like I say, it's about 5 miles away. So over to you guys.
All right.
So we need to pitch this correctly to the club. We want to foster the scene, quote unquote.
Yeah. We need to bring back golf, man.
So how do we sell them on this? We have you, which your profile, let's say, is not exactly in goth.
Yeah.
We could try and make it that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm only saying this because unless you have some assets hidden away, we're not exactly swimming in money at the minute, which would be the number one easy negotiation chip.
I was going
I
to say, as you're both talking, Adrian, suddenly your phone goes.
I like take it out of my pocket and like look at it, kind of like.
Okay, you look at it and you see that it is Amanda Knight ringing you. Obviously, you've got her number.
Okay. Yeah, I answer it. Yeah, hello.
Hi, Adrian. It's Amanda here. I'm back at my own haven now. In the Lays, I just wanted to let you know how my meeting went with Finn and her people.
Yeah. How did that go?
Yeah, it went really well. To be honest, it was it was nice to talk to some other people who'd been through a similar thing to me. They all seemed to. I mean, I told them I was going to call you and sort of like let you know how I'd got on, and that they were fine with it. They all seemed to have been through a bit of a rough ride when it came to and Finn seems pretty dedicated to like looking after her people. There was a woman there, a woman called Eva. She seemed a little bit withdrawn. I did get around to talking to her eventually, and from what it sounded like, her sire was after her sire was like put her through like all sorts of like horrible like tests and trials to like prove she was worthy. I mean, it almost sounded like torture, to be honest. Horrible.
Oh, and, interesting.
She obviously she's really mad about it. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not going to be like looking for some payback. But aside from that, we were all just sitting around chatting. I mean, I think, to be honest, I am going to accept their offer to join their group. They all seemed fairly nice. Like I said, they sort of knew what I'd been through. But yeah, apart from that, it was all. Wait, there was one thing. Just like a throwaway comment that Finn made. I didn't really get any extra information on it, but it just struck me a bit weird at the time. The young woman, Honey Watts, she made some comment. I forget exactly what it was. It wasn't really anything of import, but Finn referred to her as her secret weapon in a sort of like jokey way. I couldn't really get out of her what she meant, but it just struck me as odd. But apart from that, it was all just people talking, and they were sort of explaining what they'd been through, and I was talking a little bit about what I'd been through, and they were basically saying they're trying to look after like the youngsters, if you know what I mean, and make sure they're all okay. So yeah, apart from that, it all seemed pretty promising, and like I said, I think I'm going to accept their offer to join their group. They all seem like a nice bunch of people.
Huh, yes. Will that mean you'll still be in the same place?
Yeah, I mean they've said although most of them are in their Finn's territory, basically. Obviously, I'm only next door, so they've said there's no need for me to like move my haven or anything like that. So yeah, I'll still be in the same place as far as I'm aware. I mean, it's not like I can't just hop over there if I need to go and see them. So
Well, I think that wonderful. I'm glad that you feel a sense of belonging with these kindred.
she says, "Oh, aren't we supposed to like not use that word on mobile phones
With
because of
yeah, our kind. Well, anyway,
But yeah, I just wanted to ring you and let you and Seth know that I'm okay. I'm back home now. Everything went fine.
it's good to know. I was a bit worried.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. But yeah, everything was fine. I won't keep you any longer. I'm sure you've got your own business to get to. But I just wanted to let you know that I was okay.
Yes, well, thanks for the update and your consideration for my time.
Oh, no problems, no problems. Anyway, take care.
Bye. Hmm. Oh, that's a thing.
Which is it?
Uh, Amanda's probably going to be joining Finn's crew.
Okay, that could be a way in.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yes, that's why I thought it was best that we keep Amanda as cordial to us as possible. That way, we might have a way of being informed if they want to plan anything.
There's a lot on the table here.
Yeah.
Would be really inconvenient if we tried to do something with Underwood and the lot, and then
Yes.
Finn came up with their own
Correct.
intent.
Given that Eva definitely is part of that crew, there's no way they would work with someone like Underwood.
So do we go and try and bring them in at the expense of Underwood?
This is interesting because, yeah, there are more of them, and Underwood might be a problem.
Who definitely will be. He seems like a type who would not be content without sort of title of some sort.
Yes. I think there might be a way to incorporate. I think we're definitely going to have to make a choice between these two groups. One thing I was wondering is if we find that Vintro at Carlton Security I believe he is the final Kindred that we know of, but haven't met yet.
Mhm.
So, perhaps if he's a typical member of my clan, then he could be someone who's willing to play the game and might be someone who could counterbalance Underwood's
Mhm.
hunger for power.
And as long as Underwood doesn't want to be the one calling the shots, I think there's a fair chance that we could get everyone on board. We might have to go and give some sort of underhanded promises to his progeny to bring them on.
Yes, to Eva.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
But as long as he doesn't want to have a crown, I think we have a shot at this. If he turns up and wants a crown, then I think we might have to. Well,
Yes.
you know.
I agree.
So we go check out the Carlton security individual. Now, about this new goth wave, whatever we call it.
Yeah.
How do we sell it? Do we have assets? I don't think so necessarily. Do we have ideas? Probably.
I have some money, but
Because I'm thinking we need something like a reoccurring event, something to pin quote unquote the scene down.
like a month, what, like a monthly like golf event or something?
Yeah, a club.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be. That might be simple enough to sell.
And what do we bring to the table here with them? Because they're gonna have the location. No,
Well, it'd probably be best if they finance the event, but I could probably leverage my fame a bit to help promote the event.
Can you bring along some of your professional buddies? And if we pay them a little, are they willing to do the sort of gimmick, the goth, like dress up, hang around as the sort of spirits of the events?
My buddies,
Yeah, from the ring, you know. Is there anyone you know who would be from that circle that might be interested in some extra money for putting on a costume and gothing it up?
I highly doubt that.
Okay.
To be honest.
Okay. Well, we do have your platform to go on.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly thinking we're gonna need a bunch of pounds going forward. I have some ideas, but I don't. It's not necessarily. Well, there's a reason why I haven't got anything, and that is it's easier to not be found if you don't.
Yeah.
But eventually we're gonna have to. Oh well, if Carlton's security man has access to accounts, that might be a thing.
Yeah. How much money are you talking that we need?
Well, something to eventually either finance our own events
Mhm.
or buy property to do so. Obviously, we're going to need shell companies ad infinitum, but that's what I was thinking. We need some actual tangible assets if we want to house the new goth wave. Somehow.
Right. Right.
Unless we can put on a show that we can take on tour and have that sell the thing, and then have establishments pay us to turn up. That's also an option.
Yes.
But we
Yes.
need something to draw the people in that. And I don't know that we have that. I'm not much of a musician or a singer, really.
Yeah. And
I
DJ
think honestly,
Supernova
maybe
would have
we need to
been
grab someone who knows how to do this better than we do. Well, I suppose,
right.
but someone to manage this stuff.
Right. I mean, like the manager we were going to talk to.
Yeah. What is your read? Like, who do you put as the man of the man of power in that whole place? Because to me, it did have a whiff of the 70s about it, by which I mean kind of hard to tell
Yeah.
what was going on there.
Um.
Because if we can figure out who's
Yeah.
holding the reins, then we can work it. But
Yeah. I think definitely. Mr. Fields was in control there. I got the impression that that Rockstar would have been completely lost without him.
right.
Okay, so quick question for you guys. Do either of you intend to go out and hunt this evening?
Yes.
I think it's probably wise because we're going to be we have an itinerary that we need to address.
Okay, no problems. So obviously you've got your herd, Adrian, which you can use. That's absolutely fine.
I'm in fact incapable of ever having dots in herd, so for me that is not an option.
However, luckily for you, you are like staying at a cemetery where like
Yeah.
bodies are stored before they're put in the ground. So
Yeah, so if there is a corpse that I can find on premise, I will.
okay, well I'll tell you what, since this is a sort of random chance thing, roll me a d10. If you get anything but a 1 or a 2, yeah, there's a body there you can snack on, so to speak.
Well, that's half a body.
Yeah, that's fine. There's a couple of bodies there which haven't yet been interred. You're lucky you're able to find a couple that like haven't been embalmed, perhaps due to their sort of death wishes, or maybe they've just not got round to it yet. But it's obviously like embalming fluid isn't really your thing. But yeah, you're able to find a couple of bodies that have got, albeit cold and turgid blood in them, but blood nonetheless.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that I'm. And yeah, this is one of the big things for Seth, which underlines like he is not what he was before, because it's delicious to him to suck on the inert, coagulated blood of corpses.
Indeed it is. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. You can quite easily do that. However, can you please make me a wits awareness roll?
That is a shit roll. One success.
It is indeed. However, you only really need one success. So, as you're sort of looking over these couple of bodies, trying to decide which one you want to feed on, although there's no reason you couldn't feed on both, it's not there's anyone here to stop you. As you're sort of like looking at them, you can see that one of them, it appears as though because obviously you've fed on a lot of sort of like corpses since you were turned into a kindred, so you're used to seeing the sort of the morticians work up close, where they try and remodel the corpses to make them look presentable for the burials and stuff like that. As you're looking at one of them, you can see that the body must have once had like a large sort of like claw mark down its chest, like a very deep one, and it's obviously been filled in quite skillfully with like mortician's wax and sort of makeup applied over it. But obviously, since you're used to this sort of stuff, you've sort of like noticed where like the edge of like the sort of wax has shrunk away a little bit, and you can see this big sort of claw mark down the body, and you're in no doubt, given how deep it looks, that was probably the fatal wound.
Yeah, I'll make a note. Is there a tag? If so, I'm gonna take their details up. I got a notepad. Just scribble down the name.
Yep, you can see it has a toe tag on it that says Miles Brendan, deceased.
Yeah. I will do so. File that away for later.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I will wipe the corpse blood off the corners of my mouth, and well, I guess I'm gonna go find Adrian, because Adrian, you were out hunting as well.
Yeah, I'd say I was just at the gym, and I just like sort of came back.
Yeah, so
having fed.
So as you're coming back, Adrian, you meet Seth coming out of the mortuary part of the sort of chapel of rest. He's just sort of like dabbing his face and like wiping the sort of semi-gelatinous remains of corpse blood off his lips.
So, we ready to bring Goff back?
I think so. So just make sure I got this right, and then he goes to his notepad. So we're going to talk to the club people. Did you then want to go and see about Carlton security?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, let's go. Let's try and make this work. Now, I think we probably will need to come down with the whole, being where we are eventually with them at the club to make this work.
Tell them.
Yeah, eventually.
Okay, so are you guys heading to the Enigma Club?
Yep.
Okay, how are you getting there? Are you getting a taxi or public transport? So like I say, it's about 5 miles away from where you are at the moment.
Yeah, getting a taxi sounds good.
Not a problem. You flag down a cab. You've got enough money, Adrian. You chuck him a few pound notes, and he heads off through the street. A short time later, you arrive outside the front of the Enigma. You can hear from inside that they're obviously being Friday. Sorry, I don't know why I said. Yeah, it is Friday.
Yeah, Friday 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. It's got to the bad looks got to me already. So as you're arriving outside, you can hear the sound of the band sort of doing their prep and starting up inside. You can see that people haven't really started to gather outside yet, but the security guards sort of dotted around. You can see like the lights are sort of like turned down, and the sort of the spotlights, etc., are sort of being tested inside. You can see a security guy wearing sort of like a black puffer jacket. He's got an earpiece in, black combats, fairly sort of well built. He's stood at the door. You can see he's just sort of like, he's looking up and down the street, obviously waiting for the crowds to arrive. What do you do?
So, do we want to scope it out or go straight up to the office?
Go straight to the office. We've made an appointment.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so as you walk up, the security guy says, "Can I help you?"
Yeah, we've got a meeting with them upstairs.
He says, "What name is it?"
Adrian and Seth.
It's. What did we give them your? Well, they know who you are. Is the thing.
Yeah.
So, it would be Mr. Resnick and Driver, because I was Mr.
Yeah,
Driver
sure,
last
yeah.
time.
He's like, hold on a second, and he gets on like his little radio, and he's like, "Yeah, this is Joe down at the front entrance. We've got a Mr. Adrian Resnick and a Mr. Driver here to see the boss." And you hear like that. Yeah, sure. I'll send him straight up. Yeah, you're expected. You know where the office is, yeah?
Yeah.
He says,
Yep.
right, go on in. They're expecting you. He says, all of the board are waiting for you.
Oh shit! Let me blush, John. I need I need to have something going here. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
You.
I'm hungry.
I'll say no blush for you, unfortunately, Adrian. But,
Well, doesn't that work? But I just get hungrier.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
you
does.
get hungry,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
does go off. Yeah.
Okay, so you both force blood into your system to give you the semblance of vitality, and you make your way through the club. You can see various sort of technicians, like checking the lights, and the band are like checking their instruments and their amps and stuff like that, and they're doing like a few sort of test runs through, so like at a bit lower volume than they're sure it'll be later on. You head up through the back room to the office that you visited previously. This time, as you head up, you can see there's another man on the sort of door into like the office. You can see it's Wade, the security like chief that you're familiar with from previously when MC Supernova used to own the club in its prior incarnation. He stood there. Obviously, he knows the two of you, and he sees you, and he sort of holds a hand up, and he's sort of like, "Oh yeah, the four of them are waiting for you in the office. Just go straight through." And he sort of holds the door open.
All right.
Yeah. In we go.
Okay, and you head into the room. It's fairly dimly lit. There is Stephen Fields, obviously you know from previously, the sort of accountant, and there are three other people sat around the table. I shall show those to you now. Okay, so as you enter the room, you can see Stephen Fields still wearing the white sort of goth paint that he was wearing previously. He's sat there. Next to him is a young woman with a big smile on her face, and a couple of very serious looking gentlemen wearing grey suits. As you walk in, you can see they're sat on one side of the table. There's a couple of chairs on the other. Stephen Fields stands up and he says, "Oh, good. Pleased to see you. If you please have a seat." And he gestures at the two chairs.
Yep. Will do. I'll shake his hand if possible.
Yeah, that's fine. You shake his hand. His hand feels a little bit cold.
Mm-hmm. Well, he is a goth.
Indeed.
Go inside.
That's it. So you sit down and like literally as your posteriors are touching the seat, the young woman with a big smile on her face leans forward and says, "Right, so I'm Miss Frost. I'm one of the people who, along with my partners," and she gestures at the three people on her side of the table, are the owners of the Enigma Club. And my friend Stephen here tells me that you have something of a business proposition for us. Is that right?
That is indeed correct. You might be familiar with the previous exploits of my friend here, Mr. Resnick, also known as the Ripper.
She's like, oh, yes, I thought I recognised you from somewhere.
Yes, my fame does precede me.
She says, oh, that must be a bit of a trial sometimes, I should imagine. You know, groupies recognising you, shouting at you in the street, that sort of thing. Must get terribly tiresome. Well, I imagine it has its benefits as well.
Yes, you have summed up the situation quite aptly, apropos.
She says, well, I've handled a number of people who've been sort of in the biz, so to speak. So I know the price of fame. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I say, it has its benefits, but I don't think a lot of people appreciate the work people have to put in and the sort of costs that go along with it. I mean, why do you think so many people who are involved in show business burn out so quickly?
Yes, yes, I'm hoping that doesn't happen to me. Obviously, you can't keep fighting forever.
Well, no, obviously not. So anyway, but before we go any further, says the young woman. So the two of you are kindred, yes?
Ah, yes.
Forgive me for being a little bit blunt, but I always think if you're going to do a business with someone, you should put all your cards out on the table, you know, up front.
Just out of sheer curiosity, what would you have done if we had said no?
Well, I was pretty sure that you wouldn't, but if you... That's why I used the word kindred, you see. If you hadn't have been in the know, I'd have passed it off as something else. I'd have probably bamboozled you in some way, and then we'd have got down to business anyway. But I was fairly confident that you were both kindred. And as I say, I'm a great believer in putting all the cards out on the table if you're going to do business with people. I mean, if you're going to if you set off on an unstable foundation, how can you build on it?
Right. Yes, I suppose there's logic in that.
And let me just say, in the interest of me being, obviously I know you're kindred, let me set your mind at rest. Both Stephen, Lucius, D'Angelo, and myself are also kindred.
Yes, well, I suppose I should say hello. I am Adrian Resnick of Clan Venture.
And your friend? Your driver?
Yes.
You've seen through my ruse.
Well, I do have a knack of knowing when someone's not being entirely honest with me.
Yeah, I have the same knack. I was in this sort of business in my younger days, my more vibrant days, when I too was sussing out the truth from fairly incompetent people most of the time. I do share your experience in this regard.
She nods, and then she looks over at the young, serious-looking man and says, "Lucius, would you do me a favour and close that door? I can't hear myself think with all that racket coming through." So, yes, of course, Valerie. And he stands up and he goes and shuts the door, and you can still hear just the faint music coming through, but it's much dimmed. He sits back down, doesn't really say anything else. She says, "So, Stephen," she gestures at Mr. Fields, "Ted tells me you have something of a business proposition for us."
Yes, this is probably going to be much easier given that we're all kindred.
More extensive as well, as a direct result of this. By the way, I was, but anyway, Morgan, and I offer my hand to her.
She reaches out and she goes like that with her hand.
Well, yeah, because we're seated, right?
Yeah, she
So,
leans across the table.
yeah, she leans over. I do as well, and I'm gonna do the faux like air kissy thing, and I'll just
She says,
I'll
"Oh, how continental."
I'll look at her and just say enchanté. I'll lean back.
She sort of smiles and sort of in good humour, and then sort of fans herself and says, "Oh, monsieur." And just anyway, now we're all a little bit relaxed. As I say, this is Stephen, Lucius, D'Angelo, and I'm Valerie Frost of the Ministry.
The Ministry.
I'm gonna side eye Adrian as sort of like, can you like jump in if you fucking know about this shit? Because I don't.
Well, I was going to say at this point, if you wish, you guys can make just an intelligence roll to see if, like, perhaps your sire's mentioned the Ministry or something like that.
I mean, I like to imagine that I know about the followers of Set, but I don't know about their rebranding because I have like older information. So I want to say that I don't make this connection.
That is absolutely fine if you choose not to. You don't have to, but you can make the intelligence roll if you like.
I'm gonna go for it. Let's see.
Okay, if you've got any occult, you can add your occult to it because obviously you worked for Operation Antigen, whose job was studying Kindred society before annihilating it. So
yeah, here goes. No, that's a fat 0, and my fucking hunger dice is a 1. Yeah, I wonder why it didn't sort of highlight it though. But I got absolutely no successes and a 1 on my hunger die, which should be a terrible time for me. So I'm going to research that and see
no problem. I'm going to say with the basic roll you've got, you vaguely remember the Ministry were called something else, but you don't know the details. It was like another department. It was like researching them. Mm-hmm. But so you've heard the name. You know that they used to be called something else, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So, says D'Angelo, the sort of bearded, serious-looking man. He's staring at you, not in a sort of like trying to stare you out way, Adrian, but he's just like he seems to have a very sort of penetrating, intense gaze. He looks at you, Adrian, and he says, "So, what is this business deal?"
Yes, so Seth, do you want me to explain, or would you like to?
So I have rolled there with the intelligence roll a bestial failure. Either the character failed because their beast manifested inopportunely or excessively, or the character's failure angered their beast into manifesting inopportunely or excessively. The following are good results from a bestial failure. The character must act out a compulsion as the blood starts to subtly dictate their actions. So this would be me being influenced by my lineage, which is to say I would become ruthless. For players new to the game or troops that want their characters less prone to acting on urges, choose one of the below instead. Losers adopt an advantage on mercy. As on a mercy critical. Okay, that seems weird. The character suffers 1 or more points of aggravated health damage.
No.
Yeah, this isn't that.
That'd be a little bit inappropriate if you're just like talking and suddenly you're like.
So, there is a random chart, John, and I know you love these.
Yeah, I love some random charts.
There's a D10 random chart for random compulsions. If we don't just want to go for my own.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Roll me a D10 and tell me what you get. I assume you've got the chart in front of you.
Yeah. So 5 is dominance. So the blood urges its host to come out on top and to establish dominance.
That seems appropriate, given that you're trying to sort of do a business deal, you know. So yeah, let's go with that.
Okay. Yeah. So there's when Adrian turns to like Seth, do you want to go? Yes. Yes, I do.
You stand up to like and like kind of knock the table.
Immediately, let's like knock off some glasses from the table. No. Yeah, I guess I do stand up and sort of like start pacing about the room.
Okay, so when I asked you, I was like kind of like thought we were both gonna like play off each other, but you immediately stand up, so I kind of like look back to them, and then I look it back, and I'm like, what?
Okay, so as you go, yes, and you like stand up, pushing yourself up on the table. Lucius, Stephen stays sat down, as does Valerie. Lucius and D'Angelo immediately sort of like stand up in their suits, and they both sort of move, so they stood on either side of Miss Frost.
So I'll pace a couple of steps, and I'll give them my worst obvious predator smile to the sort of goons in Seth's mind, and I'll say, well, don't worry about it. If you were necessary, then things would have happened already. Don't worry about it. I understand it, though. And
Valerie says, you must forgive Lucius and D'Angelo. That they're somewhat protective of me. I'm sure you can understand, given everything that's happened recently.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, speaking of, there is a business proposition, and now that we're all playing with our cards on the table, there's another one as well. Which one do you want first? The important one or the one that supports it?
Why don't we go straight to the heart of the matter?
The
Says
heart,
Valerie,
or the
smiling.
jugular.
Indeed.
These are times of war. And if you were expecting some chav bangers coming up and shooting your place up, you might benefit from Cheech and Chong over here.
I'm like, just like looking at you in disbelief. Just like I can't even hide how like surprised.
As you say that, Lucius, who hasn't said anything but has been looking like dead serious all the way through it, he looks across at like Stephen with like a look on his face, and Stephen Phelps is just like,
we are facing an enemy with an almost insurmountable advantage in every aspect. I don't have a deep knowledge of the ministry as you mentioned before, but it is going to be my guess that you've seen some of this advantage in play, perhaps intimately so. And it is my intent and that of my friend here and several others that we are associated with, that we mitigate some of that and, most importantly, start developing advantages of our own to counter them.
That all sounds entirely reasonable, says Valerie. Let me ask you a quick question, though, if I may.
It is your house.
Much obliged. If I assume, like ourselves, you've been looking into the other kindred who occupy this area?
Yes.
Yes, those would be the associates.
Well, in which case, let me ask you a question. You'll have encountered, I'm sure, kindred from different clans. roughly, approximately, how many of each different clan would you say had survived? Just a ballpark figure. I'm not asking you to give away any privileged information or anything like that.
Based off what we know, obviously, I don't think we have an exact census, so to speak, but around 2 to 3 of each line. I'm assuming that there are some that we haven't met.
Obviously, we don't have a census. So.
Of course. However, I will point out that our tactics for surviving this little bump in the road have been largely successful. You will observe that there are 4 of my clan in this very room. Now, let me explain a little bit about our method of dealing with this war, whatever you want to call it. My clan has long adopted the policy that it is better to hide in plain sight. If the predators who are seeking you believe you are hidden, they will spare no expense to dig you out and mercilessly slay you. Whereas if your predator has already looked at you and believes that you are not what they are looking for, they will move on in search of other prey. That has long been our method, hiding in plain sight, and it has served us well so far.
Oh, sounds like you'll love our proposal then.
I look forward to hearing it.
I kind of look to Seth because I feel like he really wants to.
He's chomping at the bit.
And I'm like slowly trying to see if I could maybe like give the pitch before he like takes over, and I'm like, yeah. So we planned on, lack of a better term, bringing Goth back and making essentially playing on cultural fads in order to make a lot of the kind seem like they could be vampires. You know, it's kind of hard to find. You know, like if there are a lot of people staying up late night dressing like I don't know, dressing like Marilyn Manson. Adrian hasn't listened to any like relevant music, so that's the his only frame of reference. Then it's going to be a lot harder to pick out those amongst us who are actual kindred. And don't get me wrong, I haven't been in a kindred for very long, but it seems like there are a lot of us that just dress to the part, and I don't really know what that is. Like so few people dress normally, you know.
D'Angelo sort of flicks his long hair back out of his face and then says, so what you're suggesting is the herd tactics, where we effectively make everyone look the same as us, so the predator has a harder time picking the proper prey.
Is this Discovery Channel that I'm listening to now? I mean, this
D'Angelo looks a bit confused when you say that.
This is
Adrian
good.
also looks confused when you say that.
He's like, what is that? Like TV? So this you put it in a different way than we've ever done, but I like your metaphor. That is a part of it. It is, well, I suppose tried and true, but it's also a classic, and those happen for a reason. Now,
okay, Adrian, sorry to interrupt. Adrian, when Seth mentions the Discovery Channel, you notice that Stephen Fields is like smiling, but he's gone like that.
I try to read his expression.
Yeah, I'm not going to make you make a roll for it. He looks like he's amused, but obviously because this is quite a serious situation, he's like, and he's like covering his mouth so that people can't see him smirking.
we could benefit greatly from revitalizing some of London's, counterculture movements. Obviously, you have a prime vehicle in your hands, as did our dear departed friend before you, which this has now somewhat disrupted our plan. You being here instead of our friend, though maybe we shall be future friends. And I dearly hope so, because I think we need, and you also need, all the friends that you can get.
Well, I can see the benefits in what you're saying, says Valerie. But like I said, we're already doing pretty well for ourselves. I don't really see. It would seem to me, and again, forgive me if I'm being a little ignorant. It would seem to me that you and your associates would be gaining far more from this than we would be.
What are you going to do when the four of you are no longer enough to stave away the danger posed by our rather invisible enemy?
That is why we have people to help with these things.
People who are imminently capable of being compromised. I would know. I was the enemy.
She smiles and then says, yes, we're aware of that. Of course, everyone is compromisable if you have the right leverage. But all you can do, you can never be 100% certain of anything, says Miss Frost. All you can attempt to do is stack the odds somewhat in your favour.
So, I can see your logic. Like, you're doing fairly well as a clan, and and your numbers seem to be more numerous than any other individual clan at the moment in London. However, your numbers aren't larger than all of the other kindred, I assume. And I guess by benefiting with some sort of alliance with us, we might be able to avoid future threats of other existential threats, such as what would you do if the larger Camarilla came here saying we want to take over London, or the Sabbat, or
Well,
Agent?
she chuckles a bit and then says, well, one of the benefits to having been ostracised by the Camarilla is that when they put their foot in it, and believe me, I'm understating this to a biblical degree, when they put their foot in it and their indiscretions led to them being rooted out and destroyed in their havens, we were not compromised. Because we have always understood that it is necessary to play some of your cards close to your chest and to be circumspect in your dealings with others. And nor have we set out to make ourselves undead power brokers ruling the night behind webs of scheme and influence, no matter what the other clans may have said about us back in the day.
There is a consideration here which goes beyond you doing well at the moment and whatever concerns me, my friend, and the other locals of this club that we share have. Because our enemy today is not like the enemy of yesterday. The enemy today thinks nothing of bombing the subway just for the chance of tagging one of us, maybe, for future hunting. Now think about that. You make your nest here. That is fine. we have an enemy outside who might destroy the infrastructure of this town at will if they even suspect there's something going on here. Now, one of the things that you have going for you, as you have stated, you have people. That is a massive resource. One word from them on a modern telecommunications device might get flagged on extremely, and I do not know how well you are familiar with modern technology. I'm not an expert. I just know the results. I wasn't the one doing the shifting. I got the brief instead. These dragnets that they have pick up on the slightest patterns. So the more dense your web of invaluable people assisting you, the higher the chance of just slight, tiny suspicion coming your way, which isn't enough to bring bombs to you. Of course not. It's not going to happen the first time someone drops a forbidden word on the phone. It accumulates. Eventually, someone's going to show up at your door. They're going to scope the place out. Next time, it might be a bomb. Next time, it might be seemingly random gang violence that ends up with your club being burned and you, meanwhile, being in the back room, being torched by dragon breath shotgun ammo, which, by the way, is real and horrifying. There is a dimension here which I'm keen to impart on you, as you can probably tell from my demeanor at this very moment. And it is not out of pure altruism. I want us all to survive, me included, and my friend here. And this, I mentioned this because we share this trouble, or the two of us. Even if we were to remain separate, my indiscretions and those who serve me, we can bring the bomb to your door by accident without meaning to do so at all. You can do the same to me. We share now a collective danger which we impose upon each other by our faults, by our failures in every nightly life. Which is why I hope that the lot of us here in this part of London might band together in an effort to mitigate this danger that threatens us all, to be honest. Because one misstep is enough to bring attention that none of us wants in here. And
as you're saying that, D'Angelo looks over at Valerie and he says, it is strategically wise for those of the faith to form alliances with others in this time, even if the others are heathens.
At
which point Valerie rolls her eyes.
Seth's just like spreading his arms like, is this going to be a matter of faith? Is this a church?
In a manner
the
of speaking,
that I know deals in music.
In a manner of speaking, says Valerie, D'Angelo here is all of our clan are joined by a faith in our forefather. D'Angelo here is a particularly devout member of our clan. At which point he nods.
This pure curiosity and Seth's demeanor is noticeably less about the sort of overbearing so just out of pure curiosity, not to, I don't intend to offend, just to check, because I've heard some things, people say some things over the years. Your founder, your forefather, that's not the big JC, is it?
At which point she laughs and she's like, "Oh, goodness me, no."
Good. I just wanted. You don't need to I'm not.
Oh no, it's fine. Like I say, I'm very much a cards on the table sort of person. Our forefather has many names. You are probably most familiar with him as Set.
Gotta be honest, that was a miss. I don't.
Well, to put it very simply and in layman's terms, we believe that it is possible for members of our kind, by fully exploring our nature, to be able to elevate ourselves into something other than we are now. Our forefather did this and was regarded as something of a living god in his day, and she like glances over at D'Angelo, just like nods. And although we believe that each person's path to their personal enlightenment, if you will, is different, we all strive to better ourselves and to more fully explore our own natures, both as we were as mortals and now as we are as kindred. To some, that manifests as with D'Angelo here, as a religious devotion. Others seem to pursue excellence in whatever field they study.
That sounds a lot more productive than I thought it would be, but my experience with this set is limited. But thanks, and sorry again. I just wanted to check because, and he does that like hand motion of like there's some cuckoo folks.
That's absolutely fine. No offence taken. One of the, as I say, one of the tenets of our belief structure, if you want to call it that, is that in order to elevate yourself, you must first know yourself. So we prize the seeking and the discovery of knowledge, because by examining the world around us and knowing other people, we know our place in the world, and thus we know more about ourselves. So please do not hesitate to ask any questions. We find the pursuit of knowledge admirable.
Sounds almost like Buddhism.
She smiles.
When we're in a better place, I should like to talk about this.
Of course.
But to return to the matter at hand,
the door of the Church of the Midnight Sun is always open to you.
That's not a bad name. We could use that. It fits well with the sort of fields of the Nephilim types. Yeah. So, to come back around to the point, the big issue here is we're calling all banners to the fold.
I see.
So, it's a coalition, a new beginning, whatever you want to call it, a riot, hopefully a quiet one. We are calling all local relations, blood relatives, to reform what was torched before, a new beginning for what could be our society, because we can either try and survive together or hang separately. That is not up for discussion. That is just the way it is.
Now, I do apologise for interrupting you. I feel I should point out at this juncture that certain of my colleagues, and she gestures at the three people, were maybe a little sceptical of if you're trying to reform the Camarilla in the vein it was previously, because our clan does not have a particularly rosy history with the Camarilla. And also, if you're talking about getting people together to discuss this, which it seems you are, whilst I think it's a splendid idea, because like I say, cards on the table, I wouldn't want to cause you any undue trouble, because there may be certain prejudices that existing kindred hold against my clan. So I would not wish to cause problems by us turning up to whatever meeting you're organising to have these these old rivalries, these old tensions flare up and disrupt what sounds like a very admirable plan that you're trying to bring to fruition.
Well, I don't think we need to literally reform the Camarilla, just a Camarilla type organization in order to reject Kindred society.
Well, the problem with the Camarilla, if you'll forgive me for saying that, and again, I don't wish to insult anyone, says Valerie. The problem for me with the Camarilla is it was an organisation that was designed and brought into practice many hundreds of years ago. And whilst it once served a very useful purpose and was fit for purpose at the time of its creation, it did not sufficiently modernise itself or adopt more modern sensibilities, and thus became archaic and progressively less useful as time passed. So I would hope, as a clan that have always sort of tried to keep up with the times, so to speak, I would hope that if you are forming any sort of organisation, you would be bringing more modern sensibilities to the table than was perhaps evident in the Camarilla.
Yes. I haven't been of Kindred for very long, but one of the first things I noticed was that my sire was a bit out of touch with modern trends.
Well, indeed. I mean, you need look no further than the title of the head of the Camarilla, who styled himself a prince. Itself an archaic title. In most civilized areas of the world, has not the aristocracy ceased to have any great power or meaning aside from as figureheads? I mean, look here in the United Kingdom, that there is still a royal family, but they do not wield the absolute power that monarchs once did. Whereas the Camarilla clung to those ancient ideals, and I personally believe it was that clinging to the ancient ways that somewhat doomed them in the modern world.
Yes, I see the. I think we can see the logic there. We're hoping for this organization to be, on one hand, slightly more democratic. I kind of look to gauge your reaction when I say that, and at the same time, have something of a power structure just so people can make quick decisions when stuff goes down.
Oh, well, it all sounds most promising, says Valerie. Now, with regards to your other idea, that of trying to promote the goth subculture in this area.
Maybe punks as well. Very vibrant in London.
Indeed. I must admit, we were thinking of promoting the club anyway, so I do not see that it will be any great issue for us to theme our promotions along the lines that you have specified, and I can see the logic in what you're saying. Make it more difficult for us to be singled out. I definitely think that has legs, and I'm sure we can do something with that. Like I say, we're planning on trying to expand the clientele of the Enigma Club anyway, so those would seem to dovetail nicely. We absolutely have no problems with that. With regards to your new organisation, we're definitely interested, but I'm sure you'll forgive us if we're a little cautious given our clan's treatment by the previous ruling organisation.
This all sounds great, and I'm the last person to criticize anyone for being cautious. To the contrary, I wish we were more of that, and that is my entire premise. Like me personally, my stake in all of this, if you pardon my words there, my stake in this is getting us on board with acting in a way that is more suitable, more modern, more suited to the dangers that we face. To your point of having certain amount of reticence, perhaps, in rubbing shoulders with some other types. It hasn't been discussed widely, and I look at Adrian, but it has been in the back of my mind going forward from here. We need to bury these hatchets. And I motioned to Adrian because he got a lot more from his sire. So I was like, we need to bury these hatchets of centuries long, mindless squabble, pointless aggression amongst ourselves, which only serves to tear us all down. That is not going to be something that I want to see going forward.
At which point, Lucius, who's been sat there just sort of like sternly, sort of like nodding occasionally without saying anything, says, "We did reach out to the Camarilla before with an offer of friendship, and it was accepted. However, when things started to go wrong, we were fashioned into scapegoats, and we were once again cast out."
Well, that might not be much of a problem. A lot of, based on our surveys of the current Kindred, a lot of them seem to be either quite young, Kindred speaking, or quite isolationist, which is how they survived the purge. So there were very few of them left that I think would even care to hold on to an old grudge.
If you don't mind me asking, says D'Angelo, how do you envision this new society of yours being run? How will decisions be made? How will actions be judged?
So, like I said, there must be some form of power structure for at least quick decision making. So, yeah, I think there should be one democratically elected leader who is allowed to make these sort of decisions when it comes necessary. But in terms of like regular maintenance or just more mundane concerns that aren't necessarily involve an existential threat to us, then some sort of democratic council.
D'Angelo nods and then says, well, the thing that binds the children of Set together is that we all share whether religious like myself or not, like Valerie, we all share a similar philosophy, a striving to improve ourselves, and no matter which stream we may follow to pursue that, they all lead to the same river, and that binds us together. It has been my experience that other kindred do not share a common goal, and this causes them to fracture and to give way when placed under stress.
Interesting. Well, I envision this sort of society working is in order to bring people closer together, to allow them to pursue their own goals. I mean, the one goal that we all have is to survive. And it's easier when we band together.
Seth is nodding very intently at this point.
Well, I believe, says Valerie, if you can, you're giving us assurances that our presence will not cause a problem. We would be happy to attend this meeting that you're proposing. I believe we should at least give you a chance to to lay out your plans and give them due consideration.
At the very least, should problems arise, just as anything else, we need to address them.
Oh, quite.
And we need to come to a understanding as a people of how things should be going forward. And if someone is unwilling to let go of whatever it is that they hold against another of our kind, then they should perhaps do some soul searching and perhaps step aside until such a time that they are willing to see more clearly.
D'Angelo sort of tenses his hands together and he says, I feel a lot of Kindred would benefit from a goodly amount of soul searching. Your words definitely have wisdom to them. Tell me, Mr. Driver, says D'Angelo, are you a man of faith yourself?
It's kind of complicated.
Nothing worthwhile was ever won simply, says D'Angelo.
Yeah, Seth nods, doesn't pursue that further himself, at least. Just nods and waits for the moment to pass.
At which point, sort of, to break the silence, Valerie says, well, I believe we've reached an agreement then. We're quite happy to promote the goth and the punk subculture. We were planning on doing so with the rock clientele that we have currently. So I don't see that being a problem. And we're certainly quite happy to come along to your meeting and listen to what you have to say.
And we do plan on extending the promotion of these certain subcultures wider than just this area. We need to saturate the streets more than just here.
Oh, of course, and we can certainly help with that. I believe Stephen may have mentioned to you on a previous meeting that we do have 5 other such clubs throughout London, not just in this particular borough.
Good. And in the future, given that you are in business, we do recognize that businesses need something to run on.
Of course.
There will be arrangements we can make, no doubt, going forward.
Well, yes, I'm sure we can. I'm sure we can hash out the deal of the sort of the business side of the deal at a future date. That's not a problem. But like I say, since we were planning on expanding our clientele anyway, I think we should start off with that, see how it goes, and then if we need to talk a little bit about it at a further date, obviously you know where we are.
Mm-hmm. Very good. It is settled then, and I offer my hand to her, treating her as the boss of the group, which to Seth, like she's blatantly that.
She reaches out and shakes your hand.
Good.
Is there anything else, gentlemen?
You should be aware that there's a gang, which you probably are. I'm just mentioning it as a courtesy. There's a gang always took to peddling their products around the corner there.
Do you mean the Green Dragon gang?
They wouldn't be yours, would they?
Well, we've dealt with them.
Oh, neat. Also, last time we were here, we spoke to one of your security guards, and man, I cannot remember the details of the conversation, but I got the impression one of the guards might have been Kindred or something. I'm not. I mean, don't treat that with too much concern, but I don't know, might be something to look out for.
I'm sorry, you say who's a Kindred? One of our security guards?
Potentially.
Right.
Out of character, I hope I'm not misremembering something, but yeah.
She says, well, I don't think that's the case, but thank you for letting us know. We will certainly look into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it's not the case. I mean, what are the odds? I mean, it's already weird that a bunch of Kindred brought out a club after a Kindred mysteriously disappeared, and for them to, I don't know, member of the security force happening to be, yeah, it'll be weird. But yeah, I think
I'll agree, Mr. Resnick. It sounds like long odds, but such things do happen. So, again, thank you for letting us know. We would definitely look into that matter.
All right.
At which point, Valerie looks around at her companions, says, "Is there anything else, gentlemen?" Stephen says, "No, I think that's probably it. I think that's the business part of it sorted out." Lucius just shakes his head. He doesn't say anything. And D'Angelo says, "I don't have any further questions." Well, it's settled then. If gentlemen, if you need nourishment or anything similar on the way out, of course, feel free to avail yourself of our facilities. I would just ask that obviously you take. I'm sure I don't need to mention this to you, but take all normal precautions, etc.
All right. Yeah. Oh, a pleasure doing business with you.
Likewise, and Valerie holds a hand out to you, Adrian.
I shake your hand.
Just shakes your hand. And then they all sort of stand up and say, "Well, if there's nothing else, I'll leave you to the rest of your evening, gentlemen."
Oh, one thing. Are you aware of any other Kindred in society in London active currently?
Okay.
I'm not necessarily asking just about your clanmates, but also
Okay, so they are aware of 2 Kindred. So I'm going to ask, can you guys each pick me a clan of Kindred?
Zemitzi.
Much as I would dearly,
I just
dearly love to be like, yes, there is a Zimmersy in London.
No.
Probably not.
Not a Zemitzi.
Oh,
I mean Zemitzi. Yeah.
Oh, he's
So
all about the place.
What's the next game then? Because we vote. We're all here being like, democracy, yay! he's gonna roll over.
I'm an alien vampire god.
I'm an alien vampire god, and my vote counts just as much as each of yours.
And I support democracy. That would be a twist ending.
That's what Gehenna was about, establishing democracy.
Yeah, that was the true end of the world.
But I guess I'll go with Nosferatu.
Okay. How about yourself, Giannis?
We could always use some more Toreador.
Okay. She says, yes, there are. She mentions a few kindred that you're already familiar with, that they've sort of like noticed. And then the two names that they mention that you're not familiar with is they tell you that they've encountered a Nosferatu called Rosemarie. They're not entirely sure where she makes her haven. They say there's also a Toreador called William Schmidt who lives in Goresbrook. And they tell you there is also a Hecata whose name they don't know, and they're not aware of his haven. They've literally only just sort of like recently encountered this Hecata, and it was literally like in passing that they sort of maintained a wary distance from him.
Huh, interesting.
So is there anything else we can help you with?
Oh, that's everything I can think of. Yeah, and do be in touch if you have any requests of us.
Do you have a way you'd prefer us to contact you?
Well, I like phone, and I like write down and give my number.
Okay. Valerie takes out a mobile phone and she like puts your number into the mobile phone.
And you can probably get to me by contacting the Ripper here.
Very well. She reaches inside her a stylish jacket pocket, takes out a small business card and passes it over to you. It has a sort of flowery, feathery sort of logo on top of it with like a sort of sunburst behind it, and in fancy calligraphy says Church of the Midnight Sun, and it has a little blurb about a charitable organisation underneath, and then it says senior member of the board, Miss Valerie Frost, and there is like an office number and a mobile number on the card, and she's like, there you go, you can reach me at those numbers, Mr. Ripper.
Huh, thanks.
Right, so what I'm going to suggest we do, guys, is we have a quick sort of 5-minute break here. Go and refresh our drinks, use the conveniences, etc. And then when we come back, we'll crack on with you guys. Like, we'll do a couple of extended rolls, see if you guys manage to locate any other kindred. And then we'll probably roll straight into the meeting, unless there's anything else you guys want to do, like investigate the security place. And we'll sort of handle that when we get back. Okay,
All right.
So, back in 5.
Right. Well, I was not expecting an entire boardroom of ministry, but
Yeah, we did walk into a nest of vipers there, which is like infinitely more funny to me anyway, or amusing, I guess, because my goddamn compulsion went off right away, and I was like, do this way.
Satellite sensors tingling.
I will tell you now about reality and things.
Okay, so let's get started again. Okay, so you guys were talking about looking for other kindred, embarking. Obviously, you've been told about a few by the ministry, the Church of the Midnight Sun. Obviously, we're sort of abstracting this a bit, so you don't have to play through sort of blow by blow, searching through barking for all these different kindred. So basically what I'm going to ask you guys to do is I'm going to ask you to make a couple of rolls. Now, I'm open to which rolls you want to use. Obviously, it depends on how you're looking for them. And based on the number of successes, rather like we did with the ministry there, I'm going to get you guys to like shout out a few suggestions for like the sort of kindred you may have encountered. Now, obviously, I won't have complete write-ups for them for this session, right, since we've just come up with them. But they will be sort of like, if you invite them to the meeting, they will be sort of like in the background, so they'll be present, but they won't really be playing like a major role until I've sort of had a chance to firm them up and detail them out a little bit.
Are you telling me you didn't prepare a list of every possible type of kindred and their detailed backstories?
I tried doing, but this strange trance came over me, and I just ended up sort of like carving like Zimmersy into like the wall of my room with like a blunt knife. I don't know what was going on, man. It says a weird fungus I ate in the sewers. I know I shouldn't have done it. Okay, so very roughly, what method are you guys going to use to try and like find other kindred? Because obviously that'll determine what sort of role we're making.
So is this a series of roles, or do we just pick one method?
Well, you're both going to make a roll, so right. Seth could look from one way, you could look from another way, and you might make different rolls.
Right.
But basically what I'm going to do is the number of successes you both get between you will count for the number of kindred you've discovered.
Okay. In which case I'm going to basically sit myself down next to my laptop and kind of force myself to go through all the information that I can find on the internet, and try to find anything like mysterious and then follow up on those mysterious clues.
Okay, so if you're using computers and such like, that sounds like a sort of an intelligence technology role of some kind. Mm-hmm. Now, bear in mind, if you're looking to use like electronic means to find vampires, and you horrendously botch this role, that could go very badly. Because obviously we know that technology is being monitored for like vampire-y things.
Right. I mean, I guess could I make a case for resolve technology? Because the way I'm thinking about it is I'm not trying to like say use a search engine to type in exsanguinated corpse local
hashtag blood drinkers.
Yeah. I'm gonna just like go for more general information and kind of force myself to kind of slog through all this like meaningless data until I find something.
Yeah, I think resolve's fine. Like you say, given the fact you're just going to be like trawling through like reams and reams of data. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right.
Okay, so that's 4 discovered by yourself. And Seth, how do you intend to go about investigating potential kindred?
I think much like Adrian there, Seth is also going to brute force it. So stick to what he knows, which is stalking vampires.
yeah, that's a fair point.
So basically, it's just going to be like a attrition type deal. So like just keep looking until you find something.
Okay, yeah. So again, that sounds like it's resolve. You could do resolve investigation, resolve occult, depending on what sort of.
I think investigation is his angle because he's not like he needs like a time jump or two with Zofia to like get in with the sort of like, oh shit, like this isn't just about spy stuff. Like there's more.
And my intent is, assuming nothing like immediate pops up that you guys need to deal with like now, is to possibly discuss doing a little bit of a time jump after this session, so you guys have got a bit of a chance to sort of like have the society develop in a bit, put your plans into action, etc.
Yeah. So 3 vampires fucked up and were almost killed by the Second Inquisition, but then it was me.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is, Adrian, you've discovered 4. Seth, you have discovered 2. So we've potentially got 6 other kindred. Now, in a similar manner, shout out a clan or like Katif or whatever that you're interested in. And I have a vampire name generator here, so brace yourself for the cheesy names.
These guys will be recruited to our goth efforts. Because there's going to be some, there's going to be like Raven Dark Talon Blood.
Well, I will say that one of the first names that came up was Raphael von Stein. So that's the sort of names I'm packing, although like I may tone some of them down a bit because some of them are a bit ridiculous. But, okay, so...
Sorry, I just like the idea that maybe our plan to make it harder to find vampires work too well. So we accidentally introduce some random into Kindred society, and they just kind of need to go along with it because they'll...
This is a vampire LARPer. Just like, you're in.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is all you have to provide, guys, is the clan, or if they're Katif or whatever, for each of them. If you want to like throw in a name and like a couple of words to describe them, you can, but you don't have to. If you just throw me a clan, I can easily come up with a name, and like I say, I'll detail them a bit more after the session when I've got a bit of time. So, Adrian, hit me with the clan. It's not Zimmersi.
Nagaraja.
So Hecate, I can work with that.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Great.
No,
I'll put Hecate brackets Nagaraja.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay. So, Seth, what about you?
So is this for like everything?
Yeah, these are for the 6. So I'm going to get you to decide 2 of them, Seth, and Adrian's got 4 of them. So I've had one from Adrian. So
okay. Because I was like, because you jumped over to me, I was like, 4. No,
I just didn't want you to be sat there while me and Ambrose were like hammering through these different plans.
Go through the book. I'm gonna go with Katif.
Okay, nice. Okay, Adrian.
I do kind of want 4 Nagaraja though.
Yeah, the
if you want to say Nagaraja for another one, that's fine. You're probably not going to get 4 Nagaraja, but a couple I can swing with.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with 2. Another Nagaraja.
Okay, I can't.
I'll take Nagaraja for 100.
Show me Nagaraja. Okay. So for your final one, Seth, what are you thinking?
Bruja.
Bruja, okay. And then we need a couple more off yourself, Adrian.
Yeah.
And just see, you're thinking, what other types of Hecata are there?
I was thinking that.
Today, London goes necromancy.
I was like, because I was originally thinking of playing the Lamaya one, because they had like a bonus to fighting or something, but I'm like, oh no, that was too many.
I love the fact that between the kindred that the Ministry have discovered and the kindred that you guys have discovered, the number of Hecata in the city has already gone up by 4.
Okay. I think I will say Tremere.
Okay. And we need one last one.
And I'm going to say I'm going to say Ministry actually, because I think it's interesting if I find another Ministry member.
Okay.
The Black Sheep.
Okay.
Heretic.
So, between what the Ministry have told you and your own investigations over the course of like a number of hours, and like I said, we've abstracted it out a little bit, but probably like a couple of days, you've managed to find out there's a Nosferatu, a Toreador, there's at least 3 Hecata, there's a Tremere, another Ministry member, a Catif, and a Brujo. So 9 extra kindred in all that you were previously unaware of. And like I say, obviously we know that the Nosferatu is called Rosemary and the Toreador is called William Schmidt, and he is in Goresbrook. But I'll flesh out the rest sort of between the sessions. But if you choose to invite them to the meeting, they will be there, so they'll know that, but they'll sort of be in the background because we've not defined them yet.
Yeah, and I think, like honestly, until we get into dealing with them, they, for all I like, have investment in them, they can be the sort of background people. So like standing in the background until like they're approached.
Yeah, I will say as well, all of these kindred are probably like very young kindred.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like any sort of like big dick Ancilla like swinging it about, but they're probably all like neonates, hence why they've survived. There might be maybe 1, 2 Ancilla dotted in there, but I'll sort of firm that up at a later date.
Wouldn't it be great if we had like 2 Nagaraja elders kind of bands?
Yeah.
Just that sat like gnawing on a leg bone, like.
I was just walking down the street and I see these 2 super old Nagaraja gnawing on some like human flesh. And I'm like, hey, do you want to join our kindred society? And they're like, yeah, all right. That's how I met them. And that's canon.
Okay. So you've located some extra kindred. Is there anything else you guys want to sort out before the meeting?
Do we want to get on the Carlton security, or do we want to power through with the meeting?
We'd probably do the Carlton security. More information that we have going into the full meeting, the better. Okay, we don't need to establish this now necessarily, but if the 2 Nagaraja are young, do they not have that bloodline curse?
I will have to read up. Let me see if I can find my my Hecata document.
Sorry, what was that?
Because, like, from what I understand, the Hecata blood, all the bloods of the clans change, so they don't all necessarily have the same floor.
Yeah, it's
before.
It was revised in the book that is not out yet. So
yeah, I'm just going to see if I can find the document on the Hecata.
Yeah, it's not complete yet. So so we were thinking about Nagaraja, or
yeah.
I'll pull it up. There we go. And then we have the Bloodlines. Okay, so that would be the Flesh Eaters. Okay. Yeah, so their first bit is you still eat flesh in lieu of drinking blood. Biting a mortal and causing an aggravated wound acts in all other ways like drinking blood for you. You can also eat fresh corpses, although the taste is not as good. So that's your base level Nagaraja, and then the sort of Hekata clan-wide thing. Bane, okay.
Yeah, because I was going to say I don't think I have any details on the Nagaraja in the document I've got.
Yeah. So, the Bane for the Hekata is steeped in death. The fangs of the Hekata bring not bliss but agony. A victim is caught unawares will violently resist unless restrained, and few people submit willingly to the torture that is the Hekata kiss. The pain from the Hekata bite varies depending on the Hekata's bane severity. When drinking directly from a victim, the Hekata cause additional superficial health damage equal to their bane severity for each level of hunger slaked. Unwilling mortals not restrained will try to escape, and even those coerced or willing must succeed in a stamina plus resolve test against difficulty 3 in order to not recoil.
Mm-hmm.
Vampire victims to the Hekata bite must make a frenzy test against difficulty 3 to avoid falling into terror frenzy. So they have a hard time eating live things.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay. I was asking because this does affect how we want to set up the society. We'd have to be like, yeah, we can find you some body parts.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the bit of the meeting where you're like, all right, so we've all agreed, we need to keep a low profile. Right, we'd just like to introduce you to 2 new members.
Yeah, they're at the other end of the table and they're just like bestial cannibals, just eating it like a corpse.
It's like ghouls from myth. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to imagine that they're constantly covered in blood. They can barely speak legible English, their humanity's 1, but somehow everyone makes excuses for them, and no one thinks that they're vampires. They're like, oh, okay.
That's the What We Do in the Shadows London edition.
I'll say exactly. Okay, so what's next on the agenda, guys, after you've done your investigating? Like I said, it's taken a couple of days.
So, checking out Carlton Security, and that's kind of Adrian's bag.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not difficult to locate where their base is. They're listed in the directory, so that's absolutely fine. The details you can find about them is they're a security firm situated in the Gemini Business Park. They offer a variety of different security solutions, ranging from foot patrols, your normal sort of on-site security, to the latest in cyber security advice and system protection. You also see, as you're researching them sort of online, which is fine, there's nothing vampiric about mate, just looking up a security company, you can also see that apparently there's recently been a little bit of controversy about them because they had dealings with the company that was previously administered by Caleb Reese, Prime City Construction. Obviously, Caleb Reese has recently been sort of outed as a serial killer, and they apparently provided security to a number of Prime City Construction sites when he was managing the company. So they've been doing a little bit of damage limitation, sort of distancing themselves from that company and saying look, we just provided a bit of security, there's no wrongdoing. They've made their information and their books about it. They've cooperated fully with the police in their investigations, and thus far they seem to have done like no wrong. They just like hired out a few security guys to like watch over these construction sites when didn't have people on them. But obviously that you do see like that's mentioned because they're mentioned in like a few news stories tangentially related to the recent incidents with Caleb Reese and the discovery that a number of bodies were apparently secreted in the foundations of buildings that a prime city construction worked on.
Okay, so I assume we're like standing outside the building.
Yeah, it's a sort of large warehouse style building. Like I say, on the Gemini Business Park, it's one of those large sort of asphalt business parks, you know, with the different like units on them, all sort of flat 1-story buildings. There's a couple of like DIY shops, a few other bits and pieces dotted about. But
I'm looking at the security firm, and I'm gonna try to make like a licensee, maybe it's intelligence role to like figure out how good the security is here.
Okay, so yeah, that's fine. You can go with that.
And one of the things that I'm kind of looking for is like, does this place look like the security has been set up with Kindred in mind, or is it fully just for the kind?
Okay, you don't see any specific measures for like dealing with Kindred. However, the place is pretty high security, as you'd expect from a security company. There's cameras sort of like covering all approaches to the building. As you're sort of like from a distance looking at the site, you can see there are like security guards like patrolling. You can see there's like a keypad with like a card slider in on the door. The door looks very secure. The building looks not sort of fortified as in like it's meant to withstand an assault, but it's clearly been sort of made to convey the impression of a company that's got its shit locked down. I mean, obviously they're a security company. They want customers to look at their building and go, yeah, they know what they're about. So there's cameras everywhere. There's like keypads on all the doors. The windows have sort of shutters behind them, which are not sort of like big metal shutters, being like blinds where like they allow some light in, but you can't really see what's sort of going on. The windows are like tinted. So it does look like an extremely secure location.
Okay. But the building looks like there are people still there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I say, you can see security people sort of like doing patrols.
Right. So, but like, I mean, like, it doesn't look like if I step in, one of the security members will tackle me.
Difficult. You expect not, since they're a business, and obviously like you're not going to do much business if like every time a customer comes up you're like, and, like wrestle them to the ground. However, you do notice a couple of the security guys walking around do have dogs with them.
Right. Okay. Do animals react weirdly to Kindred?
Yeah, they do spot them. I do believe.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like radar, but like you will need animalism to ride a horse to make the horse actually accept you, because they don't like you.
It's not a case of they like immediately frothingly leap to attack you, but animals, especially if you've not got like the blush of your youthful health on, they will sort of shy away from you and sort of like instinctively react to you, because it's almost like they can sense the predatory side of you. But it's not like as soon as you go near a guy with a dog, it's going to be like. It might be enough to make a security guy with a dog like look at you a bit closer if his sort of like trained security dog's like trying to like shy away from you. But it's not instantly going to make anyone who's got a dog think that's a vampire.
What's that, boy? you're barking at. There's
What's,
only one explanation.
what's that, boy? Timmy's been thrown down the well by the Nagaraja.
What's a Nagaraja? What's that? Vampires exist? And they're organized loosely into clans? Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna go walk in and see what happens.
Okay, yeah, so you walk up to the main door. You see, even though it has got like a keypad on it, it's not got any lights on it. Obviously, you've had experience with this sort of keypad before. It's not got any lights on it, so it doesn't look like it's active. Presumably, when it gets later on and they've like closed, they activate that. But you can see, as you sort of open the door, there's like a little sort of buzzer goes off to like alert people inside the door's been open. You see like a sort of a fairly plush sort of waiting room. There's like green leather chairs around the wall. There's a desk with a young woman sat behind it, typing away on a computer. She looks up and she says, "Oh, I'll be with you in a second. Just take a seat."
All right. I take a seat.
Okay, you sit down. The woman continues typing for a few minutes. While this is going on, what's Seth doing? Are you going in or?
Adrian probably had a plan for this. I guess question number one, is Seth there? And if he is, question number two, did we have a plan for what he would do?
Over to you, Adrian. Have you taken Seth with you, and did you have a plan for what part Seth was going to play in this?
I didn't have a specific plan, but yeah, I took Seth with me. I unless he objected.
No, it's fine. It's just that he's sort of treating it as like, yeah, this is like you do the thing, right? So like, how can I help?
Yeah, no, I just plan to talk to the guy. We don't need a.
Okay, so I will hold back on my antics until Adrian gives me the nod, I guess.
We go and sit down, and you're like, before we even say anything, you just stand up. What is this, the Discovery Channel?
This is like insulting people on the street.
Seth's a new catchphrase. Do I look like David Attenborough?
Yeah, I'm going to describe things to you. No.
Do I have a raspy yet comforting voice? I don't think so.
Actually, you do. Really, thank you. Maybe this is the Discovery Channel. It's very kind of you to say.
Okay, so the woman typing away on a computer for a few moments, a couple of minutes pass, then she looks up and she says, "Oh, sorry about that, just finishing off some paperwork. How can I help you?"
Yes, I was wondering if we could speak to Quinn Hopkins.
Do you have an appointment?
No, but he'll want to see us.
She types on a computer for you and moves the mouse a little bit, and then she's like, "I'm afraid Mr. Hopkins doesn't see anyone without an appointment. If you'd like to make an appointment, I could probably fit you in tomorrow, midday tomorrow. Any good for you?"
Forget. I say forget, and then I say,
Yes,
we do have an appointment.
her face goes blank for a few moments, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, do you have an appointment?"
Yes, where is 9 o'clock?
She types on. Can you roll me a d10, please, Adrian?
Oh, God.
You want to get an even number. Okay. She types on a computer a bit, and then she says, Mr. Jones, is it?
Yes, that is who I am.
Okay. she looks at you and she says, quite bizarrely, she sort of stands up and then she comes round to like the side of the desk that you're on, and she puts a hand very gently on your shoulder and she says, "I probably shouldn't say this, but can I just say I was terribly sorry to hear about your wife."
What is this, the Discovery Channel? Okay. I kind of like look at her blankly and like, so was I.
She nods and then says, "Well, I'll go and see if Mr. Hopkins is ready for you now." And she sort of walks through a little door in the back wall, so like knocks on it, and you hear a voice in the side saying, "Yes, who is it?" Mr. Hopkins, it's Amanda. Your 9 o'clock's here. Mr. Jones. Sorry. Okay, we'll do. Would you like a coffee or anything bought in? No, that's fine, Miss Wilson. Just shut him in. So she looks back to you and then says, "Well, if you'd like to go in, Mr. Jones," and then she sort of like looks at Seth a bit, sort of like,
"Oh,
confusedly.
why don't you wait out here for when the real Mr. Jones shows up?" Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this point, can you please make me a wits subterfuge roll, Adrian?
Probably not, to be honest. However, you can always try. Oh boy.
It's not a 10, so you're fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the secretary, Amanda Wilson, doesn't hear you going, "In case the real Mr. Jones turns up."
Yeah.
So she holds open the door, and you can see a fairly plush but like quite official looking like office building, like in trays, filing cabinets, the whole 9 yards. There's a sort of oak panelled desk. There's a computer in there. There's a very smart looking gentleman sat behind the desk that I've just shared a picture with you of. As you're sort of walking, presumably shutting the door behind you, he looks up and then his eyes narrow and he says, "Hold on a second, you're not Mr. Jones."
No, but I am a. Sorry for the subterfuge, but I didn't think I should say that to your secretary.
You notice he sort of like leans back and he sort of puts his hands on the arm of the sort of like leather like chair he's set in, and he's like, "Well, what do you want?"
Well, first and basic thing.
You shouldn't just go around throwing out words like that. You know, walls have ears.
Huh. Yeah, well, I figure if I was in a domain of someone like yourself in your line of work, this place should be fairly secure.
Well, yes, that's true.
Given that's the first thing you said, I can tell that you're someone deeply concerned with security.
Well, yes, of course. I've made my living off it.
Yes, well, I go and take a seat. And well, first of all, I'm Adrian Resnick. I basically were trying to, recent purge being what it was, we're trying to establish a sort of a network and perhaps a new Kindred society.
He sort of like furrows his brow and he's like, "Go on."
Yeah, so, basically, we're all better able to react to threats if we work together. And we're better able to hide evidence of our kind's presence in the city, Lucis Borough, if we work together and share information. I was wondering if you would be interested in such a venture.
Well, I must say I don't really see the benefits myself. I'm doing quite all right here. Whilst I can see that more indiscreet members of our fraternity might benefit from what you're offering, I'm secure. I've managed to weather the storm using my own intelligence and my own wits. I don't really see what this group of yours has to offer me. Although, if you'd care to enlighten me.
Well, I'll be honest. I don't think the Second Inquisition's much of a problem for you. I think you have the means and the expertise to hide from their technological prowess, and obviously you feel confident in your abilities. However, what defenses do you have against a blood magic wielding kindred?
He furrows his brow and says, I can see the point you're trying to make. However, you can't seriously think I'm going to lay out all of my defensive capabilities to you, a person I barely know. At which point, I'm just going to cut away from that scene back to Seth in the main room. Again, there's as the door opens and a slightly elderly looking gentleman walks in. He heads over to the young woman, Miss Wilson, behind the desk, and he's like, hi, I've got an appointment.
Hello. Yes.
He looks around and he says,
yes.
hello.
Please, right this way.
At which point you notice that the secretary looks confused as well, and she's like, hold on a second. And she gestures to you, said, if you'll please sit down, sir, while I deal with this client here. And the old man sort of like looks back and forth between the two of you, a bit confused, and then he says, I'm here for my appointment, 9 o'clock with Mr. Hopkins. It's Mr. Jones. At which point the secretary looks entirely confused, and he says, yes, I had a break-in, and my wife suffered a serious injury. I wanted to talk about increasing the security on my home. I was told that your company is one of the best. At which point the secretary's like reaching for a phone on the desk, like an intercom style phone.
And I'll. There's really no way out of this.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just see that, lay your hands on the table, be like, wait a minute, you're not the real Mr. Jones. And then
Tug on his beard.
J'accuse!
Enchanté.
He actually is an imposter, and then the real Mr. Jones comes in.
Third one?
Yeah.
He simply pulls like a severed arm out of his pocket. He's like,
Yes,
well
Lord.
played. Well
Caught
played.
me, Mr. Bond. Yeah.
Okay, so the secretary's like picking up the phone and like raising it to her ear.
Yeah.
Like she's like pressed a button on it. Back in the office, the phone on Mr. Hopkins' desk goes. He picks it up. Obviously, I'm going to give you both sides of the conversation, but Seth, you're hearing Amanda's side. Adrian, you're hearing Mr. Hopkins' side. So Amanda says, but Mr. Hopkins, I don't know quite what's going on, but Mr. Jones has turned up. Mr. Hopkins says, yes, it's quite all right. There's been a bit of a mix-up with the paperwork, Miss Wilson. If you'll just send him in, that'll be fine. At which point, obviously, Seth, you say, yes, of course, Mr. Hopkins, I'll send him directly in. She looks absolutely bewildered. She hasn't got a clue what's going on. Puts the phone down and then says, Mr. Hopkins said he'll see you now, Mr. Jones. He said, thank you very much. And she shows him to the office door, opens the door. This slightly confused looking elderly gentleman comes walking in. Miss Wilson shuts the door behind him and goes back and sits at the desk, sort of scratching her head a little bit. At which point, Mr. Hopkins stands up and he says, I'm terribly sorry about this, Mr. Jones, he says to the elderly gentleman. There's been a bit of a mix-up with the system. I'm afraid we've double booked. Unfortunately, I can't see you at the moment, and I do apologise. I understand your situation. Would it be possible to reschedule your appointment for tomorrow evening? As a show of good faith, I'd like to offer you a 50% discount on any security measures that you should choose to purchase from us, and the assessment of your property will be free of charge. As an apology from Carlton Security for having made this system error, you may be assured that the person responsible will be disciplined for it, and retraining will be on the books. He's like, I suppose these things happen, and the consultation will be free, you say? Yes, of course. It's just our way of looking after our valued customers and apologising for this situation. It shouldn't have been allowed to happen, but as I'm sure you're aware, with all recent happenings, the subway bombing, etc., everyone's clamouring for increased security, and sometimes things do slip through the net. But we'll make sure that all is made right with you, and we'll do the best we can for you. So could we reorganise your appointment for tomorrow at the same time? You say, well, yes, I suppose that will be okay. And if you have any transport costs related to getting here, please just... he said, well, I did come here by taxi. He said, well, if you tell my secretary outside how much it costs, and you can provide a receipt for your journey tomorrow, we'll reimburse you for those costs as well. He said, thank you very much. And he sort of stands up, like Mr. Hopkins gets up, escorts him out, walking back into the room that Seth sat in, and he says, Miss Wilson, there's been a bit of a mix-up. We've double booked. I think it must have been some confusion with the name. You see, to Mr. Jones, the records must have got mixed up. If you could please book an appointment for this Mr. Jones for tomorrow evening, and if you could make a note on his record that we're going to reimburse his travel expenses, and we're going to give him a 50% discount and a free consultation by way of an apology. She's like, oh, yes, of course. And she's like tapping furiously on the computer. And then she's the person who books the appointments. She looks over and says, I've personally, please allow me to apologise for this, Mr. Jones. I'm very sorry about this. He's like, oh, well, I suppose these things do happen. Don't worry too much about it. Thank you very much. At which point Mr. Hopkins says, well, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening, Mr. Jones, and we'll get everything sorted out for you. Please, when you visit the hospital, please give my regards to your good lady wife. And he says, Miss Wilson, if you could please arrange to send a bouquet of flowers to Mrs. Jones, again by way of an apology, and I hope that she recovers in the future. And he said, oh, that's very kind of you, thank you. He said, well, and he's sort of like leading him towards the door as he's talking. Mr. Hopkins sort of gently sort of ushers him out and says, well, we'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Jones. And he heads off. The door's shut. Hopkins sort of like glances at you briefly, Seth, as he walks back through, and then heads back into his office, shuts the door, sits down on the other side of the desk from Adrian, and he's like, now, where were we? You'll have to speak a little louder, I'm afraid.
Sorry, my voice was muted. No, but I do briefly consider like whether that was some sort of like why he put like a lot of effort into that, like to like prove a point or something. That yeah. But then I'll
tell you what. Why don't we have some sort of role for that? How about some sort of insight-based role? Just see if you can sort of get a vibe off Quinn Hopkins. Suss out
inside what?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So you think he wasn't so much doing it to like prove a point, because you're pretty sure. I mean, you know that you with your disciplines could have like just been like forget and sort of like got rid of that guy.
Yeah.
Whereas he seemed to have been like, for whatever reason, you're not sure why, he seemed to be deliberately going out of his way to like do it without recourse to his like vampiric disciplines and his powers of the blood, but not in a sort of way that he was basically showing off to you that he'd like, oh, I've got the money, I can deal with this. It was just more, he almost seemed to be like doing it quite cautiously. You suspect that maybe like part of the reason he's like managed to stay below the antigen radar is because he's not been using his disciplines a lot. He's just been using like the normal mundane means of doing stuff to like keep a low profile.
Okay, but maybe I need a higher roll to figure it out. But like, I don't think he like doesn't have disciplines for whatever reason and can't use them.
You can't really tell if he like can't use his disciplines, but it's a pretty safe bet he has got discipline. You think from his sort of the caution he was using, which he was covering very well, but you've like picked up on it. You think it was more a case of he's trying to sort of protect himself, because obviously having sort of used your forgetfulness powers on people, that eventually people start sort of wondering like, why do I keep forgetting stuff if it's used on them too often? Whereas with all of this, there's no problems. Like, at worst, this guy's going to be like, oh, that was a bit shitty. There was a mix-up with the system. Oh, but they're offering me a big discount on it, so never mind. So that there's no real sort of taint of like kindredness about this whole situation. It's just a mistake was made on a computer system due to a mix-up with names, but the guy's been compensated, he's happy, he's gone on his way, everything's dealt with.
Well, as I was saying, you have, by all means, do not disclose all of your security measures to me. That would be, as you say, quite ridiculous to do to a stranger, but I do ask you to consider what measures you have in place to defend against potential magical threats. And I suppose that a apt example might be, imagine trying to design a modern security system for a place and at the same time having no idea about what potential technology is available. It would be very hard to design, right?
Well, yes, of course.
Well, I guess like that's the thing about our condition. Like, I don't know about you, but I often feel like I don't know everything that's going on. Like, I could meet someone who can breathe fire for all I know the next day, or someone who can track people with their blood, or someone who can, all sorts of things.
And how is your group going to help me with this?
Well, what do you do? Well, when you encounter,
when you're like, what do you do? He's like,
well, I mean, like when you encounter some sort of in your line of work, surely you've had instances where you've needed to contract people with expertise.
Yes, of course, and specialists and the like.
Yeah, well, think of that like specialists. Like you'll just joining the society will mean that you'll know who to talk to, and potentially who to bring on board if you so desire it.
Now you see I can see it again. I can see what you're trying to say, but the thing about hiring specialists is they're hired for a single job. They do their job, then we part ways unless they are required again. I'm not entering some sort of society with them. It's a simple cash exchange for services. They take the money, they do the services, everyone is happy.
Right.
It doesn't get into long-term entanglements with them.
But consider someone in your position is more connected to the appropriate specialist in your field. Like, I, for example, would not know who to contact if I needed some particular security specialist, but you would. You have that networking connection, and this is more or less what I'm offering you. We are basically not trying to set up an oppressive government, but rather a minimal state that can protect all of the kindred in this borough, and so they will be free to pursue their own goals.
I see.
Oh, well, of course, I have no means to pressure you, and if you like, I've met people before that are just like, look, I just want to be left alone, and that's absolutely fine. But it seems like you would benefit from this arrangement.
As you're saying this, he's sort of like nodding away. You notice on the desk phone that he was just talking to his secretary on, like a red light starts flashing on it, and he says, "Hold on a second, I've got to take this." Yes, sir. Hopkins here. Yes. I see. Yes. I presume the authorities have been notified. Yes, good. Yes, well, cooperate with them in any way you can. Turn over any footage to them, and obviously give all assistance you can. Keep me updated as the situation unfolds. Yes, sir. Yes, I understand he's one of our priority customers. Yes, offer whatever assistance can be provided. Yes, keep me informed. Yes. Okay. And he puts the phone down.
So I can tell you're quite busy.
Yes,
it's good that you're able to.
The field of security is very busy, especially in these paranoid times.
Yes. I heard you mention the subway bombing. I can suppose that would bring people's paranoia up.
Well, yes, quite. That and some other incidents in the past, and he sort of nods, have made many people more security conscious, which obviously is good for my business, but it does make us very busy.
Right. So, do you have any questions about? Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I do have some questions about precisely what form this group you're organising is going to take. As I say, I'm more a man for conducting short-term business deals. I believe that's a far safer and more efficient way of dealing with people.
Well, the thing about short-term is probably very relative. Knowing someone for a 6-month-long job, if they're immortal, is very short-term. But when you could potentially live forever, then maybe a couple of years is short-term for a kindred.
He says, well, as my sire Ulysses used to say, we're in the business of doing business. We're in the business of doing business.
No. Who?
My sire, Ulysses Milligan.
Okay.
God rest his soul.
So we have the same sire.
I'm sorry?
We have the same sire.
If you'll forgive me for saying so, that seems a little unlikely. After all, you were never mentioned to me.
You were never mentioned to me. However, this is interesting. I'm not sure what it changes, but it is interesting.
Well, I take it, given what you've just said, you're of Clan Ventru.
Yes.
That seems to, oddly enough, relax him a little bit.
I know I don't seem a typical member of our clan, but yes, I am of Clan Ventrue.
He says, well, as I'm assuming what you say is true, and we are blood family of a sort, I'm sure you're aware that our sire was, despite his eccentricities and his lack of touch with the modern world, shall we say, in his day he was a superlative businessman who instilled in me a good business ethic, let's say.
Yes.
After all, whilst empires may rise and empires may fall, business and the money that supports it always go on.
Yes, Ulysses did say that a lot. He didn't care much for that whole Marxist project. Interesting. So
Suddenly, like, Hopkins sort of snaps his fingers together and he says, "Wait a minute! You're not the cannibal boy, are you?"
I object to being referred to in such a way.
Sorry, cannibal man.
Lad.
Cannibal man. The power to eat people. Yes, I am them.
He says, "Well, then I must apologise. Ulysses, although I was off pursuing my own interests, so I didn't have a great deal of contact with Ulysses in his last nights. He'd vaguely mentioned in my previous correspondence with him that he was planning on taking some extra help to support his business ventures, but from his letters, obviously I've assumed wrong. From his letters, I assumed when he mentioned your circumstances, I don't think we need to go into them here, but when he mentioned, I assume he meant he was going to take you on as a hired bodyguard or a ghoul at best. I had no idea he was planning on embracing you.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm kind of surprised by that. Well, post hoc surprised, I guess, that a venture would embrace someone with my skill set. Now, yes, I'd love to talk about this with you in more detail later.
Of course.
But would you be willing to at least show up to an initial meeting with some of the other kindred?
A meeting in person, a conference call, video conferencing, what are we talking?
I was thinking in person. A lot of kindred seem to be very afraid of technology.
Well, yes, unfortunately that's because most of our family are extremely incautious and indelicate when it comes to modern technology. It's like any tool. I like to liken it to an explosives professional. If you're dealing with explosives and you are a professional, you treat your materials with respect and you are extremely careful and cautious, then there is very little likelihood you will come to harm. However, if you just throw your materials around, you're not sure how they work, you treat them indelicately, then disaster will surely occur.
Yes. Common sense. And a lot of kindred are quite out of touch, so they don't really know how to treat technology properly.
Quite. But yes, I'd be willing to attend this meeting of yours. When are you organising it for?
I give him the details.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to say it's in like a couple of nights' time, so I'll give you time to get everyone together and let everyone know and whatnot. And for Seth to get his retainer to like book the location and stuff like that. Well, obviously you give him the details of the location you're planning, which is it is a church that Seth's retainer, Father Turner, is sort of booking under the guise of it's a religious studies group meeting in the evening. So you give him all the details, and he's like, yes, that should be fine. I'm sure I can make a window in my schedule for that.
Excellent. Now, suppose I won't keep you any longer. You seem quite the busy person.
Yes, well, I'll just knock something off my desk.
Okay, I thought it was very apropos. It sounded like an explosion, and he was just talking about dynamite, so...
No, unfortunately, I just knocked my fan off my table. Apologies for that. It's one of the unfortunate downsides to having a large fan on a very small table.
Yeah. Before I go, are you aware of any other kindred in the area?
He says, I generally keep myself to myself. There was
But CBC does live in the subway system.
He says there is a strange trio of kindred that I have spotted about. Two young women. I would guess they're possibly sisters. They have a very similar sort of facial features, although I don't know that for sure. And they're accompanied by a gentleman, quite sort of haggard in appearance, very noticeable, and he was wearing what do they call those ridiculous hats that cowboys wear in the old westerns?
A cowboy hat.
He says, "Well, I know there's a proper name for it, but I'll be damned if I can remember what it is." Yes, he was wearing one of those.
There's a trio of vampires. One of them is a cowboy.
Well, I don't know that he's a cowboy. I know that he's wearing a cowboy hat.
Okay. Interesting. Do you know where they're located?
No, I'm afraid not.
Okay. Well, I'll keep an eye out for them. Thanks for letting me know.
Not a problem. Is there anything else?
I turn to leave. No, thank you. I turn to leave.
He lets you leave. So, Seth, you see Adrian emerge back into the room.
So
Yeah.
that went both worse and better than expected, I guess.
Yes, Seth. There's a cowboy in London.
Well, shit. Let me get the shotgun from the trunk.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
Do we care?
I don't know. There's a cowboy kindred, probably.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a thing? An American kindred in London.
Yeah. Well, there was that American werewolf here that one time, but
that
let's
was a
not get
while
into
ago.
that. I think he went to Paris after.
Yeah, bad time. Bad time.
Yeah, so he agreed to at least meet with us. I basically had to play on the idea that to be secure, he would have to make some sort of connection with the other kindred.
His preferred situation being completely isolated and on his own, then?
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that he might be a bit paranoid. We also have the same sire, which was shocking to hear.
Okay. That is something they can use, maybe.
Hopefully. He did seem to relax a bit when he found that out.
Okay, so we wind that scene to a close. Is there anything else you guys want to sort out before the meeting of the various kindred?
I do a hunting roll.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just a normal predator roll, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So let me just bust out this random table of people that you may feed on. So roll me a d50.
Okay.
Twenty. Okay.
The worst number.
And this is you rolling your predator type predator roll, right? Yeah. So you're feeding in a gym. You're feeding in the athlete circles.
Yes.
Okay, so you've gone down to the gym, you've attempted to feed. However, the gym appears to be like pretty deserted at the time. However, as you're wandering out of the gym thinking, oh, what am I going to do now? I've not been able to feed anyone. You see a fairly, sort of like down one of the side streets, a fairly scantily clad woman sort of like leaning on the side of the wall. As you watch, a car pulls up. She like leans into the window, talks to the guy. The guy shouts something from inside after a bit, and the car heads off. And she's like, "Yeah, go on, get the fuck out of it!" And so like basically like, shouting at him as the car disappears off down the street.
Yeah. So I could feed on her, but I think I would need to spend willpower because, yeah, if she's not in above average physical condition, then that's not part of my preferred victim for Clanbane.
Okay, roll me a d10. If you get an even number, she is of a particularly good physique.
Okay. Slash.
Yeah, so as obviously, given how you hunt,
She's really ripped.
Given how you hunt, you're used to like appraising people for their physical fitness because that's how you feed. So as she's sort of like shouting at the car and sort of like sticking the two fingers up and like screaming at this car as it retreats into the distance, you do notice she has like quite well-defined muscles on her arm. Her sort of calves are pretty well. She obviously looks like she works out a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bite her.
Okay, so as you're sort of heading over to her, she turns around and she says, "Oh, you're looking for a good time, mister?"
Oh, yeah. I could probably just pay her. I don't
She
need
takes out like a lipstick and like drops it into like a gaudy purse.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I give her like a wad of cash, and then I just like.
She's like, "Oh, big expenditure." Then she's like, "Hey, wait a minute, did I know you from somewhere?"
Oh, for God's sakes, I just bite her.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, did I know you?" You literally just like lean in and bite her. She's like,
yeah.
you see her legs. You have no trouble feeding on her. Like I say, she's quite well built physically. Her legs sort of start going a little bit weak as the kiss starts taking effect. And she's slowly sort of like slumping to the ground as you're sort of like holding on to her, obviously.
Yeah, I kind of like take her into the alleyway and like, because I'm just taking like one dot.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, roll me a d6, and you want anything but a 1.
got a 4. Is that bad? 4
No,
times as
no,
bad
that's
as a 1?
absolutely fine. Basically, if you got a 1, I was going to say that like one of the police cars sort of patrolling had seen you like escorting an obvious prostitute into an alleyway and was going to be like, aye, going to like pull you in for that. But since you haven't got a 1, that's fine.
All right. Yeah, all right. And I'll kind of like lean her against a wall comfortably. Do I know how long summer would be kind of in a daze from this?
Like a minute or two. Not for very long.
Okay, yeah.
Enough time for you to like scoot out the alleyway.
Okay. I was thinking if it was like several hours, and I'm like, oh, that's half a night's worth of work for her. I should probably give her more money.
To be fair, you've paid her fairly well, so you're pretty sure that all she'll remember is someone paid her. It maybe got a little bit freaky, but she wasn't really harmed, and she's got like a big wad of cash. So
yeah,
it's probably a lot less rough than some other business she's had.
Yeah, which is depressing. But yeah, I leave her there.
Yep, not a problem. You leave her there. Okay, so we fast forward to a couple of nights later to the meeting. I'm just going to go to the map. Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
So is that a district called River? Is that a river?
That's a district called River.
And it's next to the river.
Yeah, what can I say? Does what it says in the tin.
Okay.
Okay, so the meeting is taking place at St. Peter and Paul's Roman Catholic Church, which is here. The place has been booked by Seth's retainer, Father Turner. As far as everyone's concerned, on the books and whatever, it's an evening meeting of a religious studies group. You've sort of booked out the church. There's no real services on this evening, so times being what there are, they're quite happy to have like some money come in just to like a religious studies group meet up. And obviously the fact that Seth's retainer is an actual priest rocking up and
Catholic priest.
Yeah, he's like an actual Catholic priest rocking up and him saying, yeah, I'd like to book this out for my like religious studies group. That doesn't seem sus at all, so they're like quite happy to go with that. You guys have basically got the run of the St. Peter and Paul's Church, and after a short while, the various kindred that you have invited to the meeting start to arrive in their various different manners. You see Zafia turning up. Obviously, there's the ministry people turn up. Finn's there with her like posse.
Oh, did we invite Finn's posse?
Well, it's up to you guys. I mean, if there's anyone you guys are excluding, just tell me, because it's you guys who are issuing the invite.
What does it feel like?
Because I feel like we either need to exclude Underwood or Finn's posse. Or maybe we ask them, hey, this Underwood guy's going to be there, don't bring Ava. But that might piss them off.
Yeah.
Because I kind of do want Underwood there, because I want to see if he has a problem with the ministry. Because he's probably the only like old kindred there who might have a problem with the ministry. And if he does try to like say anything, we kind of posture about being like all inclusive or something, which would gain us the support of the ministry and kind of give us evidence that because he like singled out a large like section of this like society, he's probably not going to be a good leader. Mm-hmm. So I do want to see if we can manipulate that.
And we don't need to like get into like a flashback or anything, John, but let's say we invite absolutely everyone, but there's been some talk with Eva about her staying off to the side and promises made of like, this isn't us trying to like mess you up or anything. We're not trying to get you ambushed by your sire or anything. We're gonna bring you in, and we need to bring your sire in as well, because we need to figure his ass out as well. But you need to be on the sideline of this.
Okay, so when you have your sort of a little meeting with Eva, Leonard, and like obviously Finn and all the rest of them lot are there, you explain this, and she quite calmly thanks you for your concern, but says it's not going to be a problem.
Okay, so then we bring them in, and if people start throwing hands, then we have all the excuse we need to crack down on them, I think.
Okay, so all of the kindred start filing in, and indeed you do notice that the cowboy vampire is there with two young women. And if you'll give me just a second to, because I found quite an excellent picture for this.
Oh God.
For this character, so if you just give me a moment,
Howdy, y'all.
I'll upload that. I'm just gonna call him Cowboy Vamp for the minute, because why not?
Does he, have like cowboy boots with spurs and like?
He's wearing like a long coat and like a cowboy hat, but he's not like walking. He doesn't ride in on a horse like yeah.
Horse.
All right, I'm just uploading the picture now. Hopefully that won't take too long. He says,
John Vampire Man.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being called that and then getting bitten by a vampire?
Like,
oh,
fuck.
So there is your picture of the cowboy vampire.
Good.
That is a good picture.
Good. Fantastic.
I can tell he's a cowboy because of his hat.
Does he have the snake head on the hat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. He's the real deal.
So he turns up. He's got two young women with him, as you were told by. They do look like they're probably related. They have very similar facial features, etc. And you can tell that the three of them definitely arrive as a group. One thing that does strike you as a little odd is when you, cause I presume you guys get there fairly early in the evening, to like get set up and whatnot, is when you arrive at the church, one of Finn's lot is already there. It's the young woman, Honey Watts. And I'll show you a picture. Boom, there we go. And she's just sort of like sat on one of the low walls, like around the edge of like the church grounds, just sort of sat there like kicking her feet, sort of like against the walls, like she's just like chilling.
Well, hello.
So, oh, hi.
Punctual. I like it.
She says, well, this is the place, right?
It is indeed.
Oh, great. The rest, Finn and the rest of them will be along in a bit.
Good. Good, please. And I make for us to like get in, start doing the place up.
Yep, no problem. She'll come in and like help out if there's anything she can do.
Yep.
And
Probably moving some pews and that kind of thing.
Yeah. She doesn't appear to be massively strong physically, but she helps out as much as she can. As I say, the rest of the kindred slowly sort of start filing in.
Are the two Nagaraja here?
Okay, the two Nagaraja are here, and they are the two sisters who are with the cowboy vampire.
Okay. Seth and then say, like, should we tell the cowboy that, like, you don't want their lawless type around here. This borough has its sheriff, and he better mosey on now.
I think he'll get a kick out of that. Maybe you will too.
Okay, at this point, can you both make me a wits awareness roll?
That is a 3.
Lovely, Jubilee. And Adrian?
Yep.
Okay.
So what?
1. Yep.
So, both of you notice that when Zafia arrives, both her and the cowboy vampire nod to each other, but they don't otherwise exchange words. As everyone starts filing in, Adrian, you're sort of busy, like, checking everyone and whatever, so you don't really notice this. Seth, however, you notice that Harold Underwood is not here.
Just as well. However, I will make it a point to do a couple of rounds. I will go outside. There's a bit of grounds around the church itself.
Mm-hmm.
Not a huge amount though, because this is an urban area. So I'll go outside. I will wrap myself in my shadow cloak.
Okay.
I will stalk around.
As you're just about to start calling on the powers of oblivion to veil yourself in the darkest of shadows, you hear a from behind you. When you look around, Zafir stood just behind you.
Oh, hello. I'm glad you could make it.
I said I would be here. I'm here.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to warn you, the vampire in there, and she nods at the cowboy vampire. He's a member of my clan. I would advise you to be wary of him.
Wary as in I shouldn't look him in the eye, or don't get too friendly?
Nothing so unfortunate. However, if there was ever a person who the phrase "deal with the devil" was apt concerning, it would be him. And at this point, I would like to give you, Seth, the opportunity to name the cowboy vampire.
Okay, here we go. I will take a 1 minute to do that.
That's absolutely fine.
I have an idea for one part of the name, but I'll drag around for a second one for just a little bit. Okay.
Okay, so sorry, go ahead.
Let's call him Caleb Goodman.
Yeah, no problems. So Zafir will tell you his name.
Yep.
And she mentions that she finds his surname bitterly ironic.
Yeah, I think there's a chuckle there at that.
And then she says, "Well, I'll leave you to your business." And she, without ceremony, she turns and heads back inside. Okay, so you said you were skulking around the grounds, sir?
Yeah, I wanted to do a tour or two around the grounds, in the interests of trying to find out if there's anything untoward going on there, any observers, maybe an Underwood funded spy, anything like that.
Okay, make me a maybe a wits awareness roll, or you can use investigation should you prefer.
It's the same, but let's go with investigation, I guess, and just for variety's sake. So wits and investigation. Here goes. Oh, that is a 1. I will actually willpower reroll that.
Okay.
I'm gonna reroll. There's the button for it, so I'm gonna use that. So I wonder how this works. Let's see.
Let's give it a go.
Reroll dice 3. Yeah, so good. So yeah, so 3 successes.
Okay, no problems. You have a look around the grounds and you don't find anything untoward. Obviously, you're trained in surveillance, so you know what to look for. You don't find any signs that the site's being surveilled. You don't see any suspicious looking characters. You do a couple of circuits just to make sure, but you're pretty confident that, like, yeah, there's nothing untoward going on.
Good. I had a bad feeling about Underwood because he seems like the kind of guy to try something. Whatever that might be. Okay, well, being satisfied, I will find my way back inside to join the festivities.
Yep, so you head back in. There's a bit of general conversation between, like, different groups of kindred going on. Obviously, you can see that, like, most of, like, Finn's boys are there, as a coterie is called, all sort of, like, chatting with each other. Amanda Knight's with them as, like, the newest member. They're all just sort of, like, talking away. There's Caleb Goodman and his 2 sort of accomplices with him. Zephyr's stood talking with her coterie with Blake Lowe. Adrian Lowe sort of stood next to her. He's not really paying a great deal of attention to them, to be honest. All you see is like looking around the room, sort of obviously like checking the place out. You also see that stood next to Adrian Lowe is Eleanor Matthews, the gangrel that Adrian's well acquainted with, and they have a couple of words between them. They seem on pretty good terms with each other. Like I say, the ministry lot are there. They're sort of like there's a few sort of like glances cast in their direction, but they're largely sort of keeping to themselves. So they seem to be like quite friendly. Like whenever anyone looks over in their direction, Miss Frost's like gives them the wave. Everyone seems genuinely curious about what you guys are going to lay out for them. And as you two start sort of heading in and getting yourself set up, all eyes are slowly turning towards the 2 of you.
Okay, I guess this is it. I say to Adrian.
Alright. Why don't you give the whole spiel?
Yeah. You write in on when they start making comments, right? Because there's going to be, there's going to be some.
Yeah, sure. I can. I'll do the Q&A section. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give the presentation. I'll have the PowerPoint.
Oh wait, can we have a PowerPoint?
Is there I'll go set up the whole like technology part of it, and it will crash.
Okay.
There's probably an old like overhead projector if you wanted to like put some slides on or something, but it's like an old school one. It's not like a PowerPoint. It's like you'd have to put the acetate with like the thing on it and project it onto like the church wall. They probably use it to put like the lyrics for like the hymns up when they're like singing.
I'm drawing shitty drawings of like, this is a single vampire named Johnny. Johnny is alone. And then
what? Oh no, Johnny has no friends. Now the werewolves have eaten him.
No, I think we'll leave the slideshow off. That'll be something for next time when we relaunch this. So I will clear my throat and sort of take the center stage, maybe go up on the little dais there at the end where the altar is, and I'll probably refer to quite a bit to the earlier spiel that I had with the ministers back at the club. in the interest of time, I thought maybe I'm not going to redo the whole spiel, but I will put my hands together and look at everyone, open them as if to embrace everyone, and say, brothers, sisters, and fellow countrymen, we and residents of this glorious borough that we find ourselves in these dark times. Some of you have listened to me drone on about this before. I will put you through the same again. We are all here most likely not because we elected to. We are here because circumstances put us here. Circumstances have also given us new enemies, the likes of which very few on this earth need to face. We need to face them every night at a remove, hopefully.
There's a few nods from the audience.
Those who came before us, again, we have a variety of experiences here. I myself barely knew the one who created me, and I was created to be fodder for those like me, for I was once the enemy. And now I find myself here in this existence, and I wish we could have something better going forward. What came before was burnt down by those like me, like I was in those heady days. And we are left here alone, all of us, in our own little corners of this great city of London. And I hope for a future where we could rejoin instead of being picked off individually in the dark night or in fiery explosions in the subway. We have the opportunity to stand together again, but unlike those who came before us, I propose this to you, and I know some of you agree with me based on previous conversations as well. We should stand as a community looking out for itself primarily, instead of whatever structures came before. That is not of great interest to me. That order was destroyed, dismantled by mortal hands. And what we propose here is not some flaccid attempt at recreating tyranny in England. It is an alliance of those who are being hunted for mutual safety and a hope for our future prosperity. Now, there are a number of, and then like the dot, and like.
Okay, at this point, make me a charisma leadership roll.
Shit. This is the part that I'm not good at. This is like I have the ideas.
Although to be fair, if you would rather Adrian make this role, like charisma leadership, Adrian could like cut in here and then like carry on the rest of the argument.
Maybe we tag Adrian in at some
point.
Wait.
I don't know where you got the idea that I have any better charisma.
No, it's just that I don't want to fuck it up every time. I can make the roll. It's whatever.
I will tell you in advance of making the roll that if you fail this roll, it's not just going to be a case of everyone suddenly goes, no, we know we agree, but this is a shit idea. Because they've already agreed in principle. It's just like that there'll be more sort of like questions and like potential issues brought up if you fail the roll. Whereas if you succeed, like you've pretty much won them over with your arguments, so a lot of their lesser fears will have been like allayed.
Mm-hmm. I will rouse the blood
Ooh.
to provide myself an extra die on this. And I get hungrier. Well, that bodes well for what comes next. So, rolling my, because I have fuck all leadership, I will roll my 2 charisma plus 1 from the
Yep.
blood. Leadership, charisma, modifiers 1, go. That is abysmal. I will, in fact, re-roll that 1 die that I have. But
Okay.
that is not a hunger die. Come on, Seth. No. No. I think maybe it is, to a degree, yeah, Seth is saying all these things, but some of them know that he's a Lazumbra. He is probably still suffering from the compulsion a little bit from earlier, and maybe he comes off a little too strong for what he means to actually. So
Yep.
like comes off a little too much of like, too forceful about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Also, although people seem to agree to everything in principle, and they're sort of like they're saying this is a good idea, a lot of the sort of questions and sort of like little sort of like arguments and debates that are like breaking out amongst the audience, a lot of people seem to be very locked on the sort of mindset this is going to be something similar to the Camarilla, and a lot of people seem to be sort of concerned about like who's going to be in charge, like how's this going to affect younger Kindred? Is it going to be like the older Kindred are in charge like it was previously? If not, how are you going to judge who's going to be in charge? And basically, rather than sort of like winning them all over and having them all going, yes, new Camarilla, like lots of like little debates have broken out between like groups, and people are like so chatting amongst each other. Like you see like a couple of Finns lot are like so saying like, oh, it shouldn't just be the eldest Kindred in charge. A couple of like you see like Hopkins is sort of like pushing strongly the like, oh, there's certain clans that are sort of predisposed to be better at leadership, which obviously doesn't sit well with people who are amongst the low clans. Some other people, like a couple of Finns lot and a couple of other people are suggesting, well, why can't there be like every coterie has like a representative and they form a council? And there's basically this massive debate where everyone's sort of putting forward different ideas for how this new society should be governed, to the point where like after a bit you're sort of being like pretty much drowned out, Seth, by like everyone sort of talking over each other and sort of like talking to each other.
So are those the main sort of camps that are in the audience? Are there any like, or are they so numerous we can't really get a beat on it?
There are a few people who are suggesting other things, but they're sort of being drowned out. The main camps seem to be people who think the high clans and the eldest should be in charge, people who think there should be like a more democratic way of doing it, and people who think there should be like a ruling council with sort of representatives from amongst the different kindred. But again, even amongst them, there's like arguments, like people saying, "Oh yeah, we should have one person of each clan," and people go, "Oh no, we should have one person of each coterie." So even amongst the camps, there's disagreements about the like particulars of it.
Okay, so I kind of clap loud, sort of like clap loudly to like get people to kind of like pay attention. I'm like, yes, thank you, Seth, for laying out the groundwork of how this is supposed to benefit us all. And it seems to me that a lot of people are now very hung up with the leadership of this. Is that correct?
There's a lot of nods and people sort of like agreeing.
So one issue that I sense that we're all having here is what we're proposing is indeed a form of kindred government, and the only the main previous instance of that was the Camarilla. Now the Camarilla was, for all its faults, it did survive for quite a long time. Its influence can be felt throughout the world. however, it was not without its problems and its hierarchies. I say, and I'm trying to to get the pro Camarilla people to agree with me and the anti Camarilla people to agree with me by saying yeah, it's good and bad. I'm like, so it seems like we have skirted around the topic for too long. We must properly commit to some form of government.
Okay, at this point, Adrian, can you make me a charisma performance roll?
It's going to be a really bad roll. Oh, no, it's the best roll I could get.
Okay, so as you're saying this, you hear a gravelly voice from Caleb Goodman say, "And who's going to police this when it gets out of hand?"
I really want to tell him that this is a state of laws and we don't need his sword around here. Okay, so issue of policing is interesting, and we'll get to that. Well, I see. I have two thoughts on policing. I think, on one hand, we could just merely set sort of blood hunts for people who have betrayed too many of the tenants that we all will agree on.
At which point Finn pipes up and says, "Yeah, that's all well and good, but we know, like back in the day, a lot of these blood hunts were just called on people who'd become inconvenient, or like the older kindred wanted to get out of the way. What's going to stop that from happening again?"
This is merely one of two suggestions. The other being we go to a sort of established system where there's a sheriff. However, that's not without its own problems. I think in order to prevent an abuse of power, as Finn so rightly pointed out, we need to make sure that, well, everyone has a say in who these hunts can be called upon, apart from very severe or unusual circumstances.
At which point, Zafir avoids, despite her voice being fairly level, it carries quite well across the room. He says, "And what do you propose regarding a ruling body for this society? Since that seems to be on everyone's mind."
Well, I think a republic where we all vote. I mean, I can sense that this might become unwieldy as if this grows too large. However, I don't think we do want this organization to necessarily grow that large. We don't want there to be a huge population of our kind in the city, or to make it much more difficult for us to hide. So I think if we do keep our population levels to a level where everyone can vote on issues without causing a problem with bureaucracy and how we can organize things, then that should be enough for general ruling bodies. I also think we should elect some sort of leader, not to dictate rules to us, but merely make quick decisions in times of crisis or before we can fully organize everyone to come to a consensus.
As you're saying that, a young man who's obviously part of like Finn's coterie, but you're not familiar with like a sort of like a gingery beard, steps forward, and he's got like quite a thick like Eastern European accent, and he says, "Why don't we do it by blind vote?"
Yes. So for the representative of the group, yes, I think that should work just fine.
If we are going to vote on decisions, why not have blind vote? then votes counted, decision is made.
Yes, that's what I think we should be doing regularly. However, okay. So if we're wondering about, say we have like a policy, like who should like should we be allowed to embrace people as we see fit? And yeah, we should all come together as a society, and we should all like vote like anonymously, as you say on this issue, because this will affect us long term and doesn't have immediate repercussions. But say I don't know, some rogue kindred had decided that they wanted to violate the masquerade and had set up some scheme to expose our kind to everyone. In the former case, we can take as much time to deliberate on that issue, but in the latter case, we would need someone to make a decision quickly to deal with this problem, even if some people might end up disagreeing with how that problem's resolved. I don't think anyone can disagree that that sort of problem needs to be solved quickly and decisively.
There's murmurs of agreement throughout the crowd.
So, yeah, what I'm suggesting is we do a blind vote where everyone has an equal say for the former type of decisions that dictate the general rules of our society, but for the latter type of decision, we need someone who has the authority to organize the kindred to deal with potential issues like this. And other than that, I don't think any of us necessarily want there to be a strict hierarchy of positions of power, such as primogen or sheriffs or scourges or.
You know,
I begin
like
listing.
Finn's not a lot of nodding when you say we don't really want that. They're like, no, we don't.
Yeah, and like I list off a few other things that Ulysses had like mentioned to me, people might form. However, whoever's in charge might be like, okay, I need this person captured. I will enlist this kindred who has the appropriate skills. As such, the leaders we'll probably have to get to know the population of the kindred in this society quite well in order to make these decisions appropriately.
Yeah, people are nodding. So what I'm going to suggest is rather than sort of play like blow by blow through the meeting, because you've got people to agree on the general scheme of things. Everyone seems to like, yeah, they've agreed we need some sort of structure. Everyone seems to be interested in the idea of, like voting on decisions, but there's going to need to be someone who like can make quick decisions if they need to. You've got them to agree with that. So what I'm going to suggest we do is we wrap up shortly, and what we do is we're going to have like a sort of like a 2 week or so sort of period of downtime. And what I'll do is I'll get you guys to sort of like draft up, if you like, your sort of like new traditions.
Charter.
Yeah, you're sort of like your charter for this society, and then obviously once you've sort of drafted that up, if there's any like kindred who disagree with it, we can then sort of like deal with that in the sort of start of next session. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up here. The meeting sort of draws to a close. You know, if you between now and next session, if you think of any like specific stuff you want to ask other kindred, have a think about it, and we can deal with that at the start of next session. You'll have a chance to talk to everyone, although we've not played it out. Like I said, obviously I'm happy to chat for a bit afterwards about this, but we'll wrap up the session now. There'll be a 2 week downtime. You guys come up with your sort of charter, and then we'll sort of deal with any repercussions and any bits of chat at the start of next session, and we'll push on from there. So I'm going to give you guys 4 XP for this session.
Oh, nice.
Because I know it's like double the normal number of XP, but you have essentially pay. So this is like the payoff for you doing all this stuff to set up the society, and now you've finally got it to like the first step of like people are actually agreeing and you're starting to actually set it up. So I think you should definitely get some more XP for that. So thank you very much.
John, you never need to justify giving me more experience.
Well, thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Like I said, obviously I'm happy to chat for a bit, but I'm going to end the stream here. So to anyone who's watching this either now or in the future, thanks very much. Take care, and we'll catch you soon.
Bye.